Sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan. Rochester. An Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest bus gag hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, Q Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
A very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. We're glad you're with us to kick off your sports weekend, however you may be enjoying the show. On your radio at 95.7 FM, AM 950, your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. We've got plenty of people listening in the free-to-download Odyssey app and watching online on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester and on Twitch at The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger. That's Battaglia.
Good afternoon, buddy. Start of the weekend. Got the Tigers tonight. You're going to go see Sebastian Maniscalco. We got the biggest game of the year for the Buffalo Bills coming up. Big weekend here.
It's a premier sports weekend in the Flower City, and I'm kind of bummed. I mean, I'm excited as all hell to go see Sebastian Maniscalco tonight at Blue Cross Arena. My daughters became fans of his. My wife is a fan of his. He's been on her show promoting his wares for several times now. So we're fans, and I'm excited. I hope you're sitting down. Everybody in my neighborhood is also going to go. Everybody from the East Tilton neighborhood. You've heard me talk about my neighbors before, right?
It's predominantly Italian. I think there was a guy named Tony, I think, in your neighborhood, if I remember.
Yeah, there's Tony. I mean,
yeah.
There's also Tony. And, Tony as well. We got a few. They're all going to be there. So I'm excited for that, but at the same time, I'm kind of bummed because happening simultaneously is something we talked about in shots yesterday, the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight, which I know this isn't your thing. You're not about this at all. You just view this as completely like a publicity stunt, and I'll hear that, and I'm not going to say you're crazy by saying that, but the child in me that grew up watching that guy beat up people the way he did, I'm just like he was terrifying back in the day. I kind of want to see that. I want to see what he looks like. I know he's not what he was, but I think that anybody that was a fan of his kind of tonight feels a little nostalgic at least.
This is the soft drink commercial coming to real life. You know the one I'm talking about with, hey, there's Jerry Rice and Evan Smith and Dan Marino, and they're all going to play football, and then they realize this isn't a good idea. Mike Tyson's 58.
Mm-hmm. He's jacked.
It doesn't matter.
He's so jacked,
He's
dude.
fighting and again, I don't even know. Is this guy really a boxer? Is he just an influencer, YouTube guy? I don't know.
He's a boxer. He's been training. He's a big dude, and he's there's definitely there has always been with boxing a level of promotion behind it, and some of it is fishy. Like you could sit there and be, what's Tyson getting just for showing up? He doesn't have to show up and win. He just needs to show up, and he's going to get a massive payday.
It's a sad commentary on where the sport is at, where we have this just basically exhibition match here that's going to draw all this attention. I'm going to make a prediction, Danger. What time is the Maniscalco show tonight?
I believe doors at 7:30. I'm not sure when we get
doors
out of there.
Doors at 7:30, so he goes on at 8:30, or depends. I don't know. Is there a warm-up act tonight?
I imagine there's a warm-up, yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking you're out of there at 10. 10-ish. You're home by 10:30. They're saying that this starts on Netflix tonight at 8. There's 7 fights altogether. You're going to see both.
Oh, wow.
I'm predicting.
I don't know, man, because, if you know anything about the guys in my neighborhood, it's not really about the show as much as this. Hey, where we going after the show? We gonna get some food? Where we gonna go? Where we gonna meet up? We're gonna meet up after the show. Let's get some food. What do you want to get? I want some hots. Let's go get some hots. You want to get a plate? Let's get some wings. Where we going?
Well, I would say that you could go to a place like the Tap Room.
Oh,
and the
no.
Tap Room, because they're going to have the fight on tonight. You know, everybody's going to have the fight on.
Over there at the Tap Room? Oh, yeah. I like that. We'll go to the Tap Room. Maybe I'll get a great plate.
Actually, now that I think about that, is there some sort? They have rules when it comes to that stuff. Like for something that's on streaming, are you allowed to show that in a bar or restaurant? Honestly, I don't know.
I don't know what the ins and outs of that are. I experienced this a few weeks ago when I wanted to watch a Bear game with my kid, and we went to a bar, and this was the first time that I saw a bar that still ran DirecTV Sunday Ticket.
Yes,
because they kind of grandfathered it for those establishments that had always invested in the Sunday Ticket for their bar. You're not going to make them switch over to streaming on YouTube, so they kind of grandfathered that you can still get it on the Sunday Ticket on DirecTV, which I'm like, okay, well that's cool that still happens, but I don't know what the rules would be for a Netflix. I mean, how was it last year at the Tap Room when the Bills played the game on Peacock, and that was exclusive to Peacock?
It falls under the umbrella. If you're paying for the Sunday NFL ticket, you get everything. Basically, you're allowed to do it. That was my understanding on it. So, but this is like totally different, not related to the NFL. And what's do like say for a pay-per-view fight like UFC or something like that, you have to pay the royalty.
And then you're probably charging people who want to come into your establishment to watch it.
Correct.
As well.
So maybe somebody can fill us in. Is anybody charging at the door tonight to watch Tyson? And like this is I'm sorry, I don't want to watch the outcome of this. Like everything you're saying is true. Like this guy was the baddest man on the planet. He's also 58.
Yeah, but he's jacked, and he's angry. And he's got his persona is back. Like he slapped him yesterday. You saw it, right? You saw him slap him at the weigh-in.
Come on.
It's
the
all
weigh-in pre-staged fight. This
all,
is what we're gonna do
yeah.
to gain some attention. There's no story if they just go up there and shake hands.
I know.
None.
I know.
No. So you have to. Okay, I'm not gonna really punch you, but I'm gonna slap
I love
you.
it. I'm all about it. I'm back in. I kind of miss it. And more than anything, man, it's just the nostalgia. Because you're right. When was the last time we got excited about a boxing match? Pacquiao and Mayweather? That was the last one, right?
That was the last one. I remember inviting you to my brother's for that, but you were like coming back from some soccer weekend there. So that was long. Hey, it's over a decade ago.
Right. Long time ago. And now this isn't a boxing match, but it's the nostalgia of it. That's the only thing I can draw from it. Is like, why am I excited or why am I interested? It's purely the nostalgia of it. I don't get this excited for UFC. Maybe I should, but UFC, it doesn't feel special because there's always something going on.
Maybe that's it. It's when there's no other sport. It's not like Michael Jordan's going to make a cameo here for the Bulls or anything. Like, what other sport would you have something like this where somebody from your childhood is all of a sudden going to reappear on the big stage here?
Right. I wouldn't want to watch like Michael Jordan make a comeback attempt at this stage of his life.
So why is this different?
Because he's going to get hung up in the net when he tries to dunk.
Why is this different?
Because I see the man. And it doesn't look very different than what it looked like when he was young and destroying people.
You are going to regret it. Sure, anybody could get in shape, but this is just going to be two guys just kind of walking around a ring and hugging each other
maybe.
and out of breath
Maybe.
by the third
round.
round.
Would that would also play into the nostalgia of all of this? Being excited for a boxing match only to have it not live up to expectation, because that felt like almost every boxing match that I ever paid for on pay-per-view as a kid and growing up as a young adult. Every Tyson fight felt like it didn't live up to expectation. You were expecting a great fight, and he'd be knocking fools out in 13 seconds. So, yeah, far be it from this to be any different. It will probably not live up to the hype or the expectation, and we'll leave disappointed, like we are with most boxing. I mean, the last one we got excited about, Mayweather-Pacquiao, was a letdown. It didn't feel like a good fight. It was a letdown.
Chris is joining us here. Chris, our buddy here. What's going on?
Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome back, Danger.
Thanks.
So I just called Bill Gray's and they on North Greece, and they do not carry the fight tonight. So That's
Oh,
kind of a
yeah?
change.
Well, I got the fight playing in my basement. I'm just going to watch it there. I don't need to go to Bill Gray's.
Maybe they say that, and then it's like, oh, it actually is on here.
Oh, I'm just going to cast it. I'm going to go to Bill Gray's and cast it from my phone, Gino.
Chris, who do you got, Bills or Chiefs here?
Oh, man, I'm all about the Bills, man. I think it's Josh Allen time. I
Okay.
think we're going to have a highlight. It's going to have Cook all day, and I think Von Miller might even show up finally.
Wow, that's a bold prediction.
Yeah.
I like it. Chris,
Bold prediction.
thanks for the call, man.
I
Enjoy
got
your
34-17.
Ooh, that's a blowout.
Yeah.
I think it's a blowout.
All right, Chris predicting a blowout. Thanks, buddy. Enjoy your weekend. Let's shift gears to the Bills. We've given Mike Tyson and Jake Paul enough.
Well, it's unique, right? Like that's really what has our attention. This is not anything
For
like
tonight.
Yeah.
For tonight, I mean, it does kind of like set off the weekend. I mean, we got a great sports weekend ahead of us. You mentioned it. RIT's in town. You got the Bills in the biggest game of their schedule coming up on Sunday. To talk about the Bills and the Chiefs, we'll welcome in Alex Brasky, the Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest. He'll be stopping by at 425.
Yeah, the question being here, all right, are we going to see Amari Cooper this weekend? If so, can he actually be effective? Hearing Matty Glab talk about the cast there and how, like, the thumb might not be fully mobile. Try to catch a pass with 9 digits.
Not interested in that.
No, it's that doesn't sound too good. If that is true, we'll talk to Alex Brasky about this matchup, get his takes here. Alex Brasky, Yankee fan, Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest.
Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy Sports stops by here in about 15, 20 minutes as well. Will help set your Week 11 fantasy football lineup.
I want to ask Andy, do you pick up here Dawson Knox? Are you actually putting him in your lineup here? Or is this a matchup when you look at the regular season danger? All right, it's ball control. Things are going to go under. We don't have a point bonanza here. I'm interested to hear his projections about Bills Chiefs and everything else to help optimize your lineup. And look, you expect the Lions to roll this week, right? I mean, there's some other tasty things we can talk about with Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Chris already dialed us up. You could do the same thing. 866-4326 is our phone number. 585-866-4FAN. We're also on Elon's Twitter. That's X. At the Fan Rochester, you can engage with us there. We would love to get you going here to kick off your sports weekend. With the Bills and the Chiefs on Sunday, you'll be able to hear the action on the Fan Rochester. Gino, and I mentioned this morning when I was on with the CMF guys with the break room, and we gave our prediction. I think about how the Bills have, played during this streak. And it's been far from perfect, but there's been one thing that's been relatively constant when you look at the outcome of the last, 4 games? Last 4 games that they've won. 5 games that they've won. And that's the offense getting 30 points. They've gotten 30 points in their last 4 games, at least 30 points in the last 4 games, all wins. And I don't see them getting 30 points against this Chiefs defense. Not without Keon Coleman, not without potentially Amari Cooper and Spencer Brown. I think Josh Allen will have to play hero ball and will play hero ball. I don't have a path for them to get to 30 points, and I don't believe that Sean McDermott's bend but don't break defense will be able to hold the Chiefs offensively to less than 15. If we're expecting a low-scoring game, a 2017 game one way or the other, which is kind of what I'm predicting, 2017 Chiefs, I just think if you're the Bills, you need to get to that 30-point threshold against this team, and I don't know that they have enough this week offensively to do it.
Well, the line has moved here since yesterday. So for the third straight week, we do have line movement. It's back now down to Kansas City getting to Buffalo favored by 2. It was 2.5 yesterday. The over-under 46. I think that's the safest play, right? Because the public thinks of 13 seconds. They think of the AFC Championship game. They see these quarterbacks. Oh, yeah, it's easy to...
Lots of points, right?
Lots of points. No. They're going to be very conservative. Josh Allen, they kind of downshift here. One thing that has changed, normally I wouldn't say a kicker, who cares, but I think that's a big deal for Kansas City, not having their guy Bucker here for this game. I actually see this being kind of a snooze fest. I'm sorry, everybody, but
another sporting event that's not going to live up to expectation this weekend.
Well, I see kind of Kansas City leaving Buffalo, just kind of shrugging their shoulders, just saying, fine, whatever. We're still in the driver's seat. We'll see you guys in January. I have it Bills winning 20-10. I don't. What you're saying about the bend but don't break, it's different if Pacheco is in there. I'm not a believer in Kareem Hunt.
Is Pacheco playing?
No,
No.
it's different.
Oh,
if
yeah,
he
I see
was
what you're
in
saying.
there.
Okay,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought are you telling me there's a chance Pacheco plays this weekend? Yeah,
No,
I didn't think so.
No. And look, is Kansas City going to show everything to Buffalo in this game that they want? They're going to see each other. Can we say that? What would be the chances that one of these two teams gets knocked off by somebody else in the postseason? Maybe the Bills get knocked off by the Ravens. That wouldn't be a pleasurable matchup. But is anybody knocking off Kansas City? Look, Kansas City's not going to go 17-0. They're just not. So this is one of the losses, but it's one of those where they're going to leave Buffalo, and they're not going to be all worried or all concerned about it.
All right, so you have the Bills 2010. I have the Chiefs 2017. I could see it going either way, but 2017 is the number I have in my head, and I do think it does come down to the leg of one of these kickers, whether it's Bass or the new guy that they just signed in Kansas City. But I agree with you that this game will probably be conservative. It'll probably be methodical. I mean, I would love there for to be big plays, but if there are big plays, I think that they're squashed immediately after, and everything gets aligned into a package of let's just ball control. Let's just keep each other's offenses on the sideline as much as possible. And if we're talking about that, I have more faith in Kansas City's ability to do that offensively than I do in the Bills' ability to do that offensively. So
yeah, and if Cooper can't go, or if he's just out there as a shell of himself, okay, you're going to be relying on Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins, Jalen Virgil being the other guy. Who they promote this week? Is it another Shavers game? I mean, this receiving core is so thin right now, and who knew that Keon Coleman would be this important mid-season?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've always had. It feels like without Diggs, they've had depth issues at wide receiver. I mean, we remember what it was like before Diggs, right? Duke Williams and that era of Robert Foster, like just guys. And without Cooper out there, without Keon Coleman out there, hey, Khalil Shakir is nice. But I have a feeling they could neutralize Khalil Shakir pretty easily if that's the only weapon you're worried about neutralizing.
Well, and can Dawson Knox actually kind of step up? You're getting paid top dollar at that position. Again, Dalton Kincaid not available in this game, so you're down Coleman, you're down Kincaid, and if Cooper's out there, limit your expectations on Cooper. When we talked yesterday, or it was actually 2 days ago to Jay Binkley, James Cook out of the backfield, he brought up as his concern. Okay, maybe. Sure. But can we really bank on that? I mean, Cook is an X factor in this game for Buffalo for sure.
Yeah. I have a harder time banking on it knowing that the offensive line isn't going to be as cohesive as they've been if Spencer Brown isn't out there. This is Sean McDermott earlier about his tight ends and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly you have to kind of pivot a little bit in some areas. Joe has done a great job with that, and the staff as well. And it's just a lot of communication, a lot of, hey, what are we good at? What's this player best at? And just trying to at the same time make sure that we're aware of what the Chiefs plan to do.
How much does it help to have a guy like Dawson who's been a veteran and been successful here for a while?
Yeah, I mean, he's it's just great to have him. It really is. It's such an important piece for us. A leader for us as well, and just fun to really watch him grow. And I think he made the comment to me last week just about, hey, a lot of young guys coming up to him saying, hey, that was a great game, great catch. And he's like, they weren't here. He's like, I've been doing this for a while, So I just love that kind of veteran piece that he brings to our team.
So Dawson Knox needs to step up in a big way against the Chiefs on Sunday with no Dalton Kincaid. And then what about that home field advantage, Sean McDermott, on the part that you all will be playing Sunday afternoon in that late window?
Well, they're huge, and anywhere and everywhere we play. What a great deal for the city of Buffalo and Bills fans. That CBS bringing their show here to be in the parking lot. I just think it's an awesome opportunity to showcase all of Buffalo and what we're all about here.
It's going to be a scene. NFL Today from CBS will be on site, and Orchard Park is going to be buzzing leading up to kickoff at 4:25.
We've got Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy coming up in just a little bit. Let's sneak in JB in Irondequoit.
Hey, JB.
What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, I have nothing to correct you on this week, but just want to touch base on the Bills Chiefs. So I saw something good or a point made in social media about you can't beat the Chiefs twice in 1 year. Look at the AFC West; they prove it every year. So that said, I'm kind of looking at it like you're saying there. How do the Bills get kicked in the so another way where it hurts the most, and how do the Chiefs win another game that you're just like how'd they do it? So you already got it right there. The kicker's gone. Nobody's expecting this no-name kicker to come on. So you can already see it with 3 seconds left. Some guy off the street beats the Bills with a 50, 60-yard kick, 0-2 all game, and it's another way. Or I got one better. How about Hopkins on a Hail Mary one more time against Buffalo in overtime or however you like, and it's just another way the Chiefs pull off this crazy win. But in my opinion, though, I really don't care about this win this week. I mean, I always want Buffalo to win, but you got to get the playoffs. I think you go vanilla. The Bills ain't going to want to say they're going to try to lose, but you got to get healthy. Don't show them nothing, because I think that's exactly what you're saying, that Kansas City's going to come in here, whether they win or lose, during the driver's seat. But that's all I had to say.
All right, thanks, JB.
Good stuff.
Spencer Schrader is the no-name kicker signed off the Jets practice squad, who actually kicked for the Colts week 1. So, but couldn't you? That would be something like, oh yeah, the game back in November. That guy's kicking in Jacksonville or
I
wherever.
just like
now.
that JB is so damaged as a Bills fan. He can't picture the game going any other way but by heartbreak. Just a crushing defeat on the leg of a no-name kicker or another DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary. Yeah. Let's hope that that's not what happens on Sunday.
Well, you had a guy lining up offside last year. That didn't happen against Buffalo, right?
Yeah.
Right.
There's no way that the Bills can win. The only way that they can lose is by crushing your soul in the process against Kansas City. Or they get the win. Hey, Gino, I hope you're right, man. I hope it's like a 2010 ugly kind of bucket-up game.
But to that point, what JB said, like, can the Bills beat the Chiefs twice in a year? I'd have to look that up. When was the last time any team beat Kansas City twice in a year?
Yeah. Let's get to Andy Behrens, talk some fantasy football with our buddy from Yahoo. Andy Behrens, set your week 11 lineup next on the Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Fan, Rochester.
Hey boys, this is Tiffany from the Tally Ho Gentlemen Club. Come visit me and all my girlfriends today, and we promise it'll be our little secret.
The Tally Ho Gentlemen's Club, 1555 East Henrietta Road. What happens at the Tally Ho stays at the Tally Ho.
The Fan, Rochester Sports Update.
Tight end Dalton Kincaid has been ruled out for the Bills-Chiefs game. Amari Cooper, Spencer Brown are both questionable. Head coach Sean McDermott on, well, what if there is no Brown at right tackle?
I mean, Chrome's done a really good job. Chrome and Austin both. Vandy's been a part of our system for more than a year or two here, and he just works extremely hard every day, every week. Very consistent player. Went in last week, as you saw, and did a great job for us. So we have full confidence in Vandy.
Bills and Chiefs pregame coverage begins at noon on Sunday. We'll talk to Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy joining us next here in the Sports Bar. Ameryk's not playing tonight. They will be playing Laval tomorrow. RIT is home tonight and tomorrow as Army comes to the Policini. Gene Battaglia and the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Week 11 in the NFL got underway last night with the Eagles getting by the Washington Commanders. Some fantasy value there if you're starting Jalen Hurts and others. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, stopping by to help set the rest of your Week 11 lineup. And Andy, the game we were talking about, obviously, is Bills and Chiefs, which I think is deceptive. I think a lot of people expected it could be a fantasy bonanza, but I would say temper your expectations. Both of these teams tend to play it kind of conservative when they face off against each other in the regular season.
Yeah, I feel like if you've been watching the Chiefs all year, you're not expecting a fantasy bonanza, right? They play almost nothing but one-score games, which is kind of wild. For a team that hasn't lost yet, they keep it close. You know, we've seen them win some games at 20 points, 17 points. It's pretty much Kareem Hunt, and maybe they get, one big receiving performance each week, but rarely more. So yeah, no, you're right. These are two really good defenses too. Like it's not, it's not necessarily a knock on the offenses. These are two defenses that have been stopping people. Maybe the only vulnerability for either defense is that some teams have gotten to Buffalo a little bit on the ground, but Kareem Hunt is just somebody who's done it with volume instead of efficiency. So the whole world's excited for this game. Although I don't know, maybe at this point, a regular season game between Kansas City and Buffalo doesn't do it for you guys, but it still does something for the rest of us.
Yeah, we're like, well, we're just kind of, all right, Buffalo won. Okay, great. Let's see what happens here in January. From the Bills' standpoint, we know Kincaid is out for this game. We know Amari Cooper's questionable with in this brace he's wearing, Andy. Like, it might limit his movement on his thumb, which I don't know how you catch a ball if you can't fully use your thumb. But your thoughts on Dawson Knox here, a tight end that, hey, going back a few years, he was a tight end that you could certainly consider playing. Is this a good spot start, do you think, or are you just not concerned at all here that this game might just be just so conservative for Buffalo that you're just caution here whoever you're going to start from the Bills?
No, I've added knocks all over the place, and it's not, of course it's not as simple as saying, oh, well, the starting tight end is out. That means that this other tight end is going to go off. But in Knox's case, we know that there's a long-time relationship with Josh Allen. We know he's a circle of trust player for Josh Allen, good red zone target. So I really do think that Dawson Knox can be especially with the landscape at the tight end position this year, as ugly as it's been. Of course, I think Dawson Knox is a valuable play this week. I agree with you on the Amari Cooper situation. I've been viewing some of these clips of him at practice, and that he's got that big old oven mitt on the left hand, and I don't know how you squeeze it with that. I mean, it's good for him for giving it a go. But that does seem like now we're asking a guy to catch it with his body, to catch it with one hand. I don't know. It does seem like it's going to compromise him. I've got a huge investment this season in Khalil Shakir, a player I kind of think the world of. So they're clearly going to need a big game from him. And I think he can deliver. Like, that guy has been, first of all, he's catching almost 90% of his targets, which is a stupid number for a wide receiver. He's not a deep downfield guy, but he's also getting 8.5 yards after contact per catch. He leads all wide receivers in missed tackles forced on his receptions. So he's just been, and he hasn't even played every game. Like he's been so fun to watch. It's so often in fantasy, we look at a guy who is incredibly efficient one season on low volume, and we just project it forward on like double the volume, triple the volume, and say, look how good he'd be. And that never works out. But it's kind of working out with Shakir because he's basically having the season he had last year, just on like twice the targets.
Andy, other news and worthy notes for your fantasy teams here heading into the weekend. I love that the Buffalo Bills defense broke Joe Flacco last week, and the Colts do a reverse course, and Anthony Richardson is back against the Jets in the Meadowlands. What's your expectation for Richardson here as he makes his return?
Yeah, this is one of those things. It's probably the right move for I shouldn't say probably. It's certainly the right move for the Colts. He's got to play. And they didn't get the bump that they were looking for from Flacco, and Flacco threw a bunch of interceptions. And, we know that Anthony Richardson can do that. Like if you're just going to lose games and give the ball away, you might as well let the young player, get his reps in. I totally get it. It's really hard for me to think that this is neutral for the receivers in Indianapolis, though, because the thing I always come back to is that in the last 3 games that Richardson has started and finished, he's completed only 10 passes in each of those games. And that is just not an acceptable number, right? Like, it's been forever since he's completed 20 passes in a game. It may have only happened in his first start last year. This is just rough. It's really, if we're divvying up, 10, 12 receptions total across a receiving core that we kind of like, we think Pittman's going to be back. Everybody likes Josh Downs. He's a terrific player. A.D. Mitchell has looked really good. Alec Pierce has looked really. There are definitely not enough receptions to go around for all these guys. So for me, it becomes very difficult to start one of them. At least like Joe Flacco is a very flawed player at this point. And he even last year when he was a good story, there were still plenty of mistakes in there, and it wasn't a perfectly clean performance every time. But we know that Joe Flacco can actually go like 20 of 30 in a game, or 24 of 35, right? And that's what it takes to support multiple start-worthy receivers in fantasy. And I don't know. I got to see it a couple times with Richardson to believe it.
Andy, one game that just did not deliver from a number standpoint last week was Minnesota-Jacksonville. That was just kind of a bad watch there. But when you look at the Vikings, certainly you're not going to take out Justin Jefferson. But was that just kind of a one-week deal, or maybe we see a team that might have peaked already? I'm looking at this game, and it's also noteworthy this is the lowest over-under on the board. Now, I may be saying more about the Titans, but at 39.5, how do you view the Viking offense at this point of the season?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of terrified with Sam Darnold. And Matt Harmon and I spent a lot of time talking about this on the podcast this week. Like, you can't have that performance against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they did some good things and were very aggressive with Justin Jefferson, and they had a good game plan for him. But it's not as if Justin Jefferson hasn't already seen every kind of game plan. Sam Darnold has to be better than that. Three interceptions in that game, all of them bad, none of them fluky. And just looked sort of suspiciously like early career Sam Darnold, right? And that guy can't show up because, number one, the Vikings are a contending team. The Vikings are a team that should be expecting to make a deep run in January. Number two, we can't afford it from a fantasy perspective because, like, this is a too big to fail offense. This is the team with Justin Jefferson and Aaron Jones and Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson. Like, we can't have these guys falling apart because Sam Darnold becomes early career Sam Darnold. So it is a huge concern. They are playing, Tennessee is a difficult team for me because they really have some nice pieces on defense. They are, in fact, the league's number one pass defense right now. They've given up a few touchdowns. The funny thing about that team, though, is that every time they face a good quarterback, they get, they put up a number. They get cooked. It happened with the Packers. It happened with the Lions. It's pretty much happened with every good team that they've faced. So if the Vikings are who we suspected they were early in the season, they will have no problem with this defense, and they'll put up 24 or 27, and Jefferson will get his touchdown and 100 yards, and we'll feel good about it coming out of this week. I'm just, it is a major open question as to whether that was a 1 week glitch from Sam Darnold or if that was Sam Darnold turning back into old Sam Darnold.
Andy Behrens from Yahoo Fantasy helping you set your Week 11 fantasy football lineup here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. When we last saw Miami, Andy, they were beating the Rams, and I don't know. Is there something to this offense? Is it picking up steam now that they got a couple games back with Tua? Do you expect more out of Tyreek Hill, out of Jalen Waddle, out of Devin Achane, out of Tua Tagovailoa here against the Raiders on Sunday?
Yeah, as you guys know, the Dolphins have been really close in a couple games, and there's an alternate universe where they've won like 3 more games and are very much in the playoff picture. It's kind of wild that they are where they are. They're certainly a better team than their record indicates. It was good to see Tyreek get back in the end zone last week. Obviously, it's bad to hear that he's dealing with a wrist situation that is probably not going to get better during the regular season, right? So he's going to be a little bit compromised for the rest of the year. But they're clever with the way they get him the ball. He doesn't need to always be catching balls deep downfield. So I trust that Tyreek can get home, but I also feel like maybe he's going to be 85 or 90% of last year's Tyreek. But that's more injury related than anything. You have to feel really good about Devon Achane, I think, more than anyone else in the offense, because the exciting thing about him, you guys know, I've been doing this job and analyzing fantasy for forever. I've been doing it for a really long time, and every season there's some undersized running back who gets a lot of hype in the preseason about how, he's going to spend time in the slot. This guy's going to catch 45 passes, 50 passes. He's not just going to be in the backfield. And that always ends up being a lie. It was a lie with, Duke Johnson, Dree Archer. There's just a long line of guys who are going to be that player, and then it never materializes. But Devon Achane is that player. He's actually it's him and Austin Eckler have spent more time in the slot than any 2 running backs. And it's really happening for him. And he has all these games with, 7 catches, 8 catches. So especially in full PPR, Devon Achane is turning into a little bit of a cheat code. I'm really excited about him rest of season.
Andy, I just want to go off script here for a second because I'm just curious. How long have you been doing it? Does this go back? Because Danger and I we've been playing since the 90s. Does this go back to the, I would take Barry Sanders over Emmitt Smith, and here would be the reasons why.
Well, I've been playing since the 90s, and I've been at Yahoo. This is my 18th year at Yahoo, which is you're getting pretty close to the ground floor of Yahoo Fantasy there. So I've been at Yahoo for a long time. I was at ESPN before that. So yeah, I've been talking fantasy for about 20 years and playing it for much longer.
I just remember the game changed for me when I was introduced to Yahoo, because I remember playing it. Oh, now we are getting off script.
Yeah.
Story time. I mean, I remember in the 90s being in a fantasy football league with coworkers and the commissioner, having to accumulate all the data and all the stats.
I would have to mail this out every week.
And I'm like, this kind of sucks. I mean, and I didn't want to be spoiled or ungrateful because it was still fun, but I didn't understand it. And man, when the digital era caught up and the digital age caught up with fantasy football and Yahoo being that platform that I was kind of reintroduced to the game with, it changed everything. And Andy, you've been a part of that ride the entire time for me. So it doesn't feel like it's been as long as it's been, but this is why we have you on, because I feel like if you play the game, you're a part of everybody's experience in some way, shape, or form.
Oh, it's why this is such a satisfying job, right? Even when you have to take the blame when things don't go well, it's still a pretty satisfying job, and the stories are good. So I've been super fortunate to do it. I am definitely of that era where the early fantasy leagues were just in an office environment where you were kind of using, company equipment and processes all the time to manage the league, right? The write-up, the weekly write-up would come in an inter-office envelope. You were making copies of the weekly, transactions and all of that. So, yeah, I definitely lived that and really appreciated it. Really, I don't know, that's some of the earliest sports writing I did was as a commissioner writing up the matchup recaps in my dumb fantasy league in 1992.
It's fantastic. Andy Behrens, Yahoo Fantasy, 18 years here. Andy, the 49ers, 5-0, feels like they're doing Niner stuff, right? Like when they get to the postseason, the team you don't want to face. My question isn't necessarily about Christian McCaffrey, there's Ricky Pearsall. Is that enough here? How do you see the target share kind of moving forward here between a healthy Debo, Pearsall, and everything else that's involved here in San Francisco?
Yeah, obviously the Brandon Ayuk injury is a huge loss, but Juwan Jennings is such a complete football player. They've loved him for years because he's about as good of a run blocker as there is at the wide receiver position, and he's fully committed to it. He in kind of the same way that George Kittle is just a fully committed blocker and an all-around tight end. That's been Juwan Jennings as a receiver, and they trust him with volume too. So he's somewhat surprisingly, he really kind of stepped into Ayuk's role maybe more than Pearsall did. And Kyle Shanahan, even after that game last week, described him as his team's X receiver going forward, and that's going to be a really valuable role. That's a super efficient offense. So Jennings is super interesting. They're getting Pearsall on the field a lot, and they were relying on him not just early on that early long touchdown, but also late on the game-winning drive. So like he's a real piece for that team. Now I think he's probably going to be 5 or 6 targets a game, so that's a little dicey. He's going to have plenty of quiet weeks, but as a wide receiver 3, that's just fine. I think Jennings is a very solid wide receiver 2 for the rest of the season. But I feel like such a dummy every time. I wonder if Kyle Shanahan is gonna, maybe they'll dial it back a little bit with Christian McCaffrey. Maybe they won't try to grind him to dust and give him 20 touches right away. But of course they did. Of course they used him as the Christian McCaffrey of old. Even though he missed the first 2.5 months of the season, it appears that's the plan for him. So, unless you're holding on to somebody as a contingency value backup, you can probably launch Jordan Mason in shallower leagues because he's just not going to get touches while McCaffrey's healthy.
Yeah, it's a constant. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. If your last name is Shanahan, you're going to destroy stars in the NFL by using them excessively. I'm excited in the early window for Steelers hosting the Ravens, but much like the Bills and the Chiefs, I feel like you look at it and you think, fantasy bonanza, and then I think about these two teams and how they kind of play each other when they meet up in the regular season, and it always feels like they kind of play down a level, and it's not as productive offensively as what you come to expect. And let's not forget what we saw out of the Ravens the last time they were playing against Cincinnati here back on last Thursday night. So what's your expectation here for Steelers-Ravens on Sunday, Andy?
Yeah, that's the thing. You might have said that about the Cincinnati matchup as well, right? Like these are just not the Ravens that we're accustomed to. And the Ravens, while they're a really good team and they've been great against the run this year, but they are going to have to put up a number in order to beat teams in the playoffs. Like they're not going to, this is not the Ravens team that can hold anybody in the league to 17 points because they have the worst pass defense in football. They're giving up over 290 passing yards per game. They've given up the most passing touchdowns in the game. Every great quarterback who gets a hold of them puts up a huge number. And I fully expect Russell Wilson to put up numbers in this one too. He's been one of the biggest surprises of the season for me because I thought what Sean Payton was doing with him last year was smart and probably the most reasonable thing to do with Russell Wilson at this stage, but they were definitely managing around him. So I just did not see this year coming. And he's been so well paired with George Pickens. I don't know how the Ravens, as they are currently constituted and the way that secondary is playing, I don't know how they're going to stop George Pickens because he does some superhero stuff almost every week now. I think he's in for a big week. I think Russell's in for a big week. I don't know. It is, you're right. It's Ravens Steelers. And part of me thinks it should be a weird score. It should be like a 16-13 game, but that has just not been Baltimore this year. But like teams that aren't even good are putting up big totals against Baltimore, right? Like the Raiders couldn't stop scoring against Baltimore. Like teams just keep coming against them and they don't stop them. So I really think we're going to see, I don't know, one of these teams is going to have to reach 30 in order to win that game, in my opinion.
Andy, one thing I'm trying to get better at in life is just recognizing biases. And in fantasy football here, in this example, I watch Notre Dame football a lot. And, man, I want the Bills to draft Audric Estime. I didn't get Audric Estime. Here he is in Denver. Oh, look at him. They gave him a little taste. They didn't give the other guy anything. Are we ready to kind of move forward as an RB2 perhaps with Audric Estime, or is this an example of maybe my bias showing here?
No, I mean, he outsnapped, outtouched, and outgained every other Denver running back last week. And I do think the other guys are going to have roles. And, Javonte Williams better in pass protection, and Jaleel McLaughlin, like a wonderfully complementary player with somebody like Estime, because McLaughlin's really small, really light. super shifty, and Estime is none of those things. He's huge. He's a bowling ball, and he's coming downhill at you. The thing that I like about Estime most is he knows what he isn't. Like he's not going to try to bounce anything outside. He's coming between the tackles. He doesn't mind picking out a linebacker to hit and drag for 2 or 3 additional yards, right? Like he has all of that in his game. He doesn't have a lot else in his game. I guess is my concern. Like they're not going to, he's not going to see 5 targets. And if they fall behind by multiple scores, I don't know what his role is because I don't see him as a huge piece of the passing game. I don't see him as a ready to pass protect in the NFL at this point. So I think the other guys come on the field there. But Denver's got a great defense, and they keep games close, and the run is in play for them almost all of the time. And I do think that he is going to be their early down runner from this point forward. So, if you play in a standard league, you play in a half PPR league, he's got a little bit more appeal for me, but I like him. He's about 230 pounds and he just comes right at you. And again, he picks out somebody to hit and then he pushes that guy for a couple of extra yards. It's not flashy. It's almost never flashy. And his opportunity has really come because Javonte, unfortunately, has just not gotten back to the level that he was at pre-injury. And he's not averaging 4 yards per carry. He's not producing explosive plays ever. And he's not forcing missed tackles at the rate they used to. So there's a huge opportunity ahead for Estime and a pretty good matchup against Atlanta this week, too.
Andy, wanted to get your take before we let you go on the 2 primetime games. Bengals in L.A. to take on the Chargers. T. Higgins back in the lineup. What does that mean for, again, when we last saw the Bengals, all Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase were setting records. And then on Monday night, maybe had a little bit more flash in the preseason, but no Dak Prescott certainly changes things for Dallas against Houston. Your take on these primetime matchups?
Yeah, well, the Houston game, it just feels like a get-right spot for Houston. Nico Collins coming back, so that's exciting for the Texans. It changes changes the possibilities for that offense. So that's a huge addition to that team. But that game seems super one-sided given the quarterback situation in Dallas right now and the general air of hopelessness around that team. I'd be really surprised if they can keep pace with the Texans. Also, the Dallas run D has been so terrible. And Joe Mixon has been so good. That's probably the greatest individual versus unit mismatch in the entire week. So this could be a 140-yard game for Joe Mixon. I don't think that one's going to be all that competitive. I'm really excited for Chargers and Bengals because one of the sort of under-discussed national stories this year has been just how good the Chargers defense is. The Chargers are only giving up 13.1 points per game. They are the best scoring defense in the NFL by a lot. And they've been good across the board. They're near the top of the league in takeaways, top of the league in sacks, passing, rushing, all of it. And they've been a little bit, their schedule isn't incredible to this point, but they did hold the Chiefs to 17. I want to say they held the Cardinals to 15 or 16, right? The good offenses that they've faced, they have severely limited. So I think that could actually be a low-scoring game, which feels weird to say with Burrow and Higgins and Chase all in the mix. But the Chargers have been so good defensively, and they can keep the ball away from you too because they're a super effective rushing team.
Andy Barron's Yahoo Fantasy. You can watch him on Thursday nights, and certainly Fantasy Football Live on Sunday. And everybody, hey, the Bills don't kick off till 4:25. You're going to the game. You can tune in, Andy. Andy, tell everybody about the show.
Oh, what a pregame plan that is. Yeah, appreciate it. 1 hour before kickoff of the early games on Sundays, Fantasy Football Live. It's me, it's Jason Fitz, it's Matt Harmon, it's Tara Roberts, and we are breaking down all the essential storylines for Week 11. It's crazy. We're already in Week 11. All the actives, inactives, and late-breaking news and answering questions.
Andy, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy your weekend. Let's do it again next week.
Thanks, fellas. Good luck, everyone.
There's Andy Barron's, our favorite Yahoo Fantasy, talking some fantasy football and helping you set a winning lineup for Week 11.
Yeah, it's it's funny kind of going down that memory lane, having to do everything by hand, having to get the newspaper. And
I didn't want to do it. I remember being asked in 2006, a bunch of coworkers, they're like, hey, let's do a fantasy football league. I said, I'm out. Absolutely not. They're like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, no, I do understand. I did it when I was younger, and I hated it. I didn't have the patience for it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't trust the people. There was just too many things that were just out of my control that I didn't understand. And they're like, no, you don't get it. Like, it's so easy. It's so easy. I'm like, what do you mean it's so easy? And then I got introduced to Yahoo. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's too much fun.
Right. For ad drops, you actually had to pick up the phone and call.
You're right.
You're the commissioner. It was an investment to be the commissioner.
Right, right. And so the technology made life a little bit easier for you. And it's funny, we're talking fantasy football. When we come back here from the break, I'm going to go see Maniscalco tonight at Blue Cross Arena. And there's a bit that he does that I'm going to share with everybody if you're not familiar with it, that I love so much because it points the finger at us. It forces us to look in the mirror and just kind of recognize the absurdity of it all. It's all in fun, but it was a moment in one of his routines where I'm watching the special with my daughters, and they just started. They're laughing to the point of tears, and they're pointing at me. He's talking about you, Dad. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. You're right. It's ridiculous. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
That's funny. Josina Anderson is reporting that there's one head coach that if his team loses this week, she's hearing that he's going to get fired. So I don't know if she's speculating, but it fits, and I think it's worth discussing.
Oh, if we're going to talk about potential coaches being fired and openings, I have a name that wouldn't shock me if he's back on an NFL sideline next season. But we'll discuss it. We'll get into it here next. And we'll be joined by Alex Brasky in the 4 o'clock hour as well. We'll talk more Bills and Chiefs with the editor of Bills Digest and the Batavia Daily News. Brasky coming up in a few. Your call's always welcome at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
Weekday mornings, use the Odyssey app and let sports talk turn your groggy start into a game-winning day. WROC-AM, WBEE HD2 Rochester, and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
No Dalton Kincaid for the Buffalo Bills. He's been ruled out for Sunday's matchup against Kansas City. Amari Cooper and Spencer Brown are questionable. Dawson Knox ready to get an expanded role this week.
You know, guys have been stepping up all year. We've had injuries in a lot of positions. So I think it's just whenever your number's called, you got to step up and make plays. But thankfully I've got some good experience, before he was here as well.
Bills and Chiefs, our pregame coverage will begin at noon on Sunday. Then the Amherst play a Sunday afternoon game in Toronto at 3 o'clock. The Amherst hosting Laval tomorrow. Don Stevens will have the call. RIT is home tonight and tomorrow night as Army comes to town. No Tage Thompson tomorrow. The Sabres are hopeful to get him back soon. Sabres have won 4 of 5. They have played in Philadelphia tomorrow. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Bills, Chiefs, 425 live Sunday right here.
I see this being like a 2017 game. I think this is kind of a ball control game. I get it. It's the biggest game of the year, and that's not because it's the next game. It's the biggest game of the year because it's the 9-0 Chiefs and the 8-2 Bills. So that's why this is a massive game. But the ultimate narrative, I don't think changes all that much.
The key in this one is going to be, can Kansas City run the ball with Kareem Hunt? And then can Kansas City force Josh Allen to do something that he hasn't done much this year? And that, of course, make the red zone mistake. If he does, I think the Chiefs win.
Mike Danger.
Man, I would love to tell you that the Bills are going to win this game. I just don't think they have enough offensively to be able to beat Kansas City. It's going to be close.
Okay.
2017, Kansas City.
Ooh. Gene Battaglia.
Couldn't you see a scenario where you get a takeaway, a quick score, and maybe another quick score, and all of a sudden the shout song's playing again, dude, and it just becomes a long party, and the Chiefs are like, you know what? We'll see you in January.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
We'll talk Bills Chiefs with Alex Brasky, the Batavia Daily News, the Bills Digest. He stops by in about 20 minutes. We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, happy Friday to you as we kick off your sports weekend on the Fan Rochester. We appreciate you listening in the free-to-download Odyssey app or on your smart device when you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan. And special shout-out to anybody watching the Sports Bar on our YouTube channel at the Fan Rochester. Like and subscribe while you're there. Put a little wind in the sails. And anybody checking out the stream on Twitch as well at the Fan Rochester. Gino, I'm excited because tonight, not a sporting event tonight, but I am going out with the girls, with my wife and my 2 daughters.
But I thought you were going out with the Goombas, too.
Well, you know how we are. We're all going to meet up at some point, maybe in the atrium before. Hey, where you sitting? Where you sitting? You got good seats? I got good seats. I got great seats. Where are we going afterwards?
It's Richie C. I can just picture, right? Is he part of the...
Richie C. is part of the crew.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Timmy Parmesan, part of the crew. Joey Dreyer Sheets, part of the crew. Nikki G, part of the crew as well. Yeah. And maybe a Tony in there. There has to be at least one. If I hope you're sitting down because they are all going to be there. Maniscalco is a Chicago guy. He's a sports guy. My daughters, I mentioned, I'm bringing them with me. They're also fans, and they became fans of him largely. The bit that they quote more than anything is this bit. And admittedly, it opened my eyes to just how ridiculous us guys, can be when we get together, like we just did for 15, 20 minutes with Andy Behrens, and we talk fantasy football.
So it's a group of guys. They all know each other. They don't know me. They all went to college together. They're in their mid-40s. I'm just summing everything up as I'm listening. Okay. I got that. But they're reminiscing about the college years because they're unhappy in their life right now. We all know these people. In their mid-40s, they got to go back about 25 years to figure out. And they always refer to each other by their last name. Hey, Schmitty, remember? Remember college? Beer bong, pissing in the yard. You know, that's the type of guys that fantasy football, that's all they do. Those are your receivers. Oh, my receivers are really good this year.
So the first time my daughters hear him do this bit, they're laughing to the point of tears, and they're pointing at me. They're pointing at me and laughing at me. The comedians remain the ultimate truth tellers in our society, and I love that he can point out the absurdity of it all. And I also love looking in the mirror and knowing that he's talking about us, Gino. But let's face it, you already knew I was a fan, not because of that bit, because he's Italian.
Can make the girls laugh, make Sandy laugh. It's a good night out for you. I'm happy you're going out.
It'll be a fun night out.
Enjoy that. NFL, Josina Anderson stopping short of saying this is going to happen, but she's strongly implying there's one team that if they lose this Sunday, they're going to fire their head coach. That will be Jacksonville. They get the bye the following week. The Jags play the Lions. Jags have a backup quarterback. Detroit is favored by what? 2 touchdowns? Yeah, this sounds certainly plausible. Doug Peterson gets a head start in his holiday shopping. I could see that. Look, Jacksonville, it's a bad job danger. Trevor Lawrence has regressed. He already got his contract. It's a market where you're second fiddle to college ball. Hell, they tried the college coach already there. It bombed. Like some up-and-coming offensive coordinator is going to get a look-see. What about Joe Brady as the next head coach?
It's my biggest fear. I mean, right? Like, that's going to happen. Right, Joe Brady is going to get looks, and he's going to get interviews, and we have to prepare for what that looks like in 2025 because that's the kind of job that I think Joe Brady would take.
That's why when we talked to Alex Gold yesterday, this is the problem when talking about Andy Reid and how they kind of stay the same. It's like, look, it's not a concern if you have Andy Reid as the offensive coach. Like, if we have another offensive coordinator, I'm projecting here. I don't know if Joe Brady gets a job next year, but he's going to get interviews. He's going to get credit. Wow, this offense evolved. It actually got better without Diggs. Oh, we got to talk to this guy.
Josh Allen didn't turn the ball over as much. You corralled the wild stallion. He wasn't as much of a gunslinger.
So how would you fix Trevor Lawrence?
Right.
Right. And Jacksonville, why I'm saying it's a bad job, Ben Johnson's not going to go to Jacksonville.
Ben Johnson's going to go to the highest bidder. The person that wants to pay Ben Johnson as a top 5 paid head coach in the NFL will get Ben Johnson. I don't know which team is crazy enough to do that. I know it won't be the Bears. Maybe Jacksonville's crazy enough to pay him what he wants. But that's the word on Ben Johnson. That dude wants to get paid. Honestly, like my team, I'm thinking to myself, Joe Brady might not be bad if he can get something. I actually think Cliff Kingsbury might be good for Chicago based on his relationship with Caleb Williams because everything has to be centered around getting the quarterback right.
How did they not bring in Kingsbury as your OC?
They interviewed him.
Right.
You know why? Because he's a threat. Because he's a threat.
Wow,
Gino. That's a functional organization, isn't it?
That's not the way. I would think you would want the best talent, not be worried about your job.
Yes, you would think. But no, they didn't bring it. They brought in a guy who wouldn't be a threat to the head coach. It's ridiculous. So I'll buy into that. I don't think they have any chance of beating Detroit. Unless Detroit somehow has this like emotional letdown or they take their foot off their gas because of how they won against Houston. But it just doesn't feel like the kind of thing that Detroit would do. Is that in Detroit too? Or is it in Detroit?
It's in Detroit.
The Jags are dead. And rest in peace,
like
Doug
if
Peterson.
The Jags didn't show up in Buffalo. They're really going to show up now in Detroit?
With Mac Jones as their quarterback? Stop. I don't know if you saw this story. We didn't talk about it yet. John Gruden has aligned with Barstool. And full disclosure, Gino, I've watched some of his YouTube content, and I've really enjoyed the work that he's putting out there. He'll do like in-depth, detailed matchups, the biggest games, and he'll look at both sides of the ball, both teams. He gets it, the whiteboard out there, and he breaks it all down. I think it's really, really well done. And now he's joined forces with another organization that has ongoing issues with the NFL. And I'm only bringing him up because I'm kind of curious to see how the world looks here over the course of the next 3 to 6 months. Now, with the Raiders, I think it's clear they wouldn't have they still haven't recovered from being forced to terminate John Gruden. And if they had their choice today of Antonio Pierce or John Gruden with the scarlet letter, I think they would take Gruden in a second. And I'll go ahead and say it. I think he wants to and will coach again in the NFL, just because I don't believe it would take much for him to drop that litigation in an effort to return. He's apologized, and with just under 200,000 subscribers in a few months' time on his YouTube channel, people not named Dave Portnoy are also willing to accept him back into their lives. Some of you may never be able to forgive him for his choice of words in those infamous emails, and I totally get that. The NFL is just more interesting with someone like Gruden on the sidelines, and I know the team that is crazy enough to bring him back. Jets fans, meet your new head coach, John Gruden.
There's a lot there. So let me just start here with a disclaimer because I'm self-aware to just say I don't want to come off as, hey, I'm virtue signaling or anything like that, right?
I don't even know what that means.
It
but go
means
ahead.
like, well, I'm not going to wave my finger from Mount Pius here, but
Fair.
I would just ask you can do time, okay? Martha Stewart went to jail. Craig Carton, he just got an award. People go to jail and they rebuild their lives and they can come back. There are a few things that you just can't come back from. You're a child molester, you're done. You're not hireable. And if you are saying racist things, call it for what it is, Danger. That's what it was. How do you recover? Who is the person? This would be breaking a glass ceiling. Who is the person that got canceled for something like this? And anybody, I'm just throwing this out there, that was able to recover and rehab or do whatever and get their life back. I'm struggling to
the
come
person
up with
who would hire him and give him that second chance is probably a racist. And there are plenty of NFL owners that I think would never admit to it, but we all kind of view them as, oh, yeah, he's kind of a racist.
Well, 53% of the league is African-American. I don't know if there would be backlash on this, but I think it is also noteworthy. Like, okay, you went to Barstool. They're still selling the clown tee. This dates back to the Deflategate and everything else. You can still buy the Roger Goodell clown nose. You mean to tell me that Roger Goodell is just going to be okay with Gruden aligning with Barstool? Barstool is not a jumping point to get back into the NFL, Danger.
Well, I watched a little bit of the stream last night of them live streaming the Thursday night game, and Gruden is sitting on the couch with the Barstool guys, and he looked miserable. He looked absolutely miserable doing it. And all I could think to myself is, you know, if this is a low point for him, if he views this as, I mean, he's getting paid, so if it's about the money, he's doing just fine. And I think his content is good. I mean, like his YouTube content is fantastic.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example of somebody, but it's not apples to apples because it wasn't racist, but it was just blasting a community. Tom Brenneman. Tom Brenneman said something on a hot mic, got caught, deservedly got fired. And then he's not going to jail. He's just kind of off in space there, and he's doing games in Central America. He's back on the CW calling college football. It's not where he was in Major League Baseball, but he got. So that's the closest example I can come up with.
I think, and that's why I kind of prefaced it by saying, I wonder what the world looks like in the next 3 to 6 months. Because if the pendulum swings all the way in one direction, eventually it starts to swing back in the other direction. And I don't know that he'll ever get a job again. I think he will. I think that at some point the NFL will be like, you know what? If a team wants to hire him and he drops and we're cool, he's better for he attracts attention. He attracts eyeballs. If he's on a sideline, all of a sudden that team is now relevant and you're watching that team. If he's the coach of the New York Jets, if he's a head coach in market number 1, even without Aaron Rodgers, because I think he would come in and he'd be like, all right, I'm blowing it all up. I want to make this team in my image and my likeness. Rodgers, get out of here. They're still relevant even without Aaron Rodgers.
Here's what needs to happen first. And maybe this has happened, but not to my knowledge. Like, is there somebody that's willing to stand up for John Gruden? Like somebody from the NAACP or somebody like that would say, this man is, like that's what would be needed in a scenario like this. Unless you say, Danger,
Woody Johnson. Woody Johnson would be all he needs is Woody Johnson to be like, I want to hire John Gruden. That guy's crazy. He would absolutely be crazy enough to say, you know what? Screw the NFL. I'm going to bring in my guy. I want to bring John Gruden in here.
Right. That again, the Gruden. Do you think Goodell would be cool with that though?
Jerry would hire him.
No, I think, and let's start here. There's no college that would hire him because you would have to put it through a normal hiring process. You would hire him with the Rooney Rule. when you haven't done that. That's what makes this all murky, Danger.
Yeah.
I still think there's a piece of the penance or whatever that needs to happen. And again, what's the comp
If
here?
it's as simple as I'm dropping all my lawsuits because I want to get back into coaching, and I guess that's where I'm coming. I'm taking this from, I've watched his YouTube content, and I watched a little bit of what he did with Barstool during their stream yesterday. And the comparison is apples and oranges. His YouTube content, he's fired up. He's Chucky. He's the head coach, and he's breaking down everything on the whiteboard, and it's really, really compelling. The stuff I saw last night, he looked bored. He looked like he wanted nothing to do with it, and he's just there collecting a paycheck. So it leads me to believe this guy, I think everybody
of course
wants
he
to be back.
He wants to be back. And why did he sue? Because he knew he can't go back. All right, well, this is the next best option. Why hasn't he settled at this point? Like everybody else.
Well, what
settles
happens when it
eventually.
goes to arbitration, then maybe, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised. I'm curious to see what the world looks like in the next 3 to 6 months, and I wouldn't be surprised if that guy got a second chance.
I
in the
would be
NFL.
shocked. I'd be shocked unless there's some sort of development along the way. But where things stand right now,
let's see. I mean, if your team is in need of a head coach, would you be excited about John Gruden being your next head coach? I think a lot of fans would be excited about the potential of a Super Bowl winning coach, a guy with that kind of name value, brand name value, that immediately makes your team relevant. The Jets feel like a team that would do that.
sidebar. It's the story that we never really got to know who leaked those emails. That's just that's also the unsavory part. Like, hey, I'm gonna
I'm gonna ruin this guy's life.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ruin his life. And he apologized, right? It's not like he's defiant. Like, he said those things. They're horrible things. Not that the apology is the end all be all, but I don't imagine that in his heart he is.
That's where I'm like, that does not matter. In his heart, we know the rules of the road here. What makes this different was, all right, it's private email. It's not saying it in public. So, but no, that is not a defense, Danger.
The whole
in your heart
thing, the whole thing, though. Well, and again, that's why I guess I'm saying, what does the world look like over the next 3 to 6 months? Because maybe there's enough of a reversal of course where people would look at him and be like, you know what? Or maybe I'm completely wrong and he's dead. He's not ever getting back in the NFL. But if he were to get back in, it wouldn't shock me, depending on how the world looks, and it wouldn't shock me if a team crazy enough like the Jets would be the team to be like, yeah, we want him back. That's the guy we want.
Better off going to jail
than working for the Jets?
No, just to get his life back. Like you go to jail, you're Martha Stewart, you're Craig Carton, anybody else that does time, and you're Pete Rose, like whatever it is, and then you're gonna.
I don't know. I think that's kind of ridiculous, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Chucky. And for what it's worth, his YouTube.
No. I'm not going to let go on that. It's not ridiculous. Why is that ridiculous?
He should go to jail for what he did?
No, you're missing the point. My point is that you can go to jail and come out and get a second chance for what he did. What's the process?
That's why I keep saying, what does the world look like over the next 3 to 6 months? Because that's the way it's been. What you're saying is accurate. The way it's been has been that way, which is kind of weird to me. Maybe it changes. We'll see. Look, again, teams like the Jags, teams like the Cowboys, teams like the Jets, they're going to be looking for a head coach. Who would you take?
Do you want one of these Goodell clown T-shirts?
Yeah, that's strong. That's like a circa 2018 look right there.
They're still $30.
Good,
probably moving them. Yeah,
good for Barstool. Alex Brasky, the Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest. He's stopping by the sports bar next. We'll get back to talking Bills Chiefs here on the Fan.
Sports update.
Dalton Kincaid has been ruled out for the Buffalo Bills on Sunday. Amari Cooper and Spencer Brown are both questionable. Head coach Sean McDermott on, well, what if there is no Brown at right tackle?
I think Chrome's done a really good job. Chrome and Austin both. Vandy's been a part of our system for more than a year or two here, and he just works extremely hard every day, every week. Very consistent player. Went in last week, as you saw, and did a great job for us. So we have full confidence in Vandy.
Bills and Chiefs, our coverage will begin at noon on Sunday. We'll talk some Buffalo Bills football coming up next. Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News and Bills Digest, joining us in the sports bar. Amerks are off tonight. They're taking on Laval at home tomorrow. Our coverage will begin at 5 o'clock. RIT is home tonight and tomorrow against Army. Final game of the season for St. John Fisher football tomorrow. They take on Utica at 1. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The beer is cold and the wings are hot. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's just two really good teams colliding, and it's fun. It really is fun, because when you're the best, when you think that you're the best, when you play the best, when you know that you're the best, when you think that you're the best, whatever it is, and the competitiveness comes, and it just comes, and it just comes, it's beautiful to be a part of.
Bills left tackle Deion Dawkins. We're all looking forward to Sunday afternoon. Bills, Chiefs, the undefeated Chiefs coming into Orchard Park, and we welcome in Alex Brasky, covering the Bills, Bills Digest, the Batavia Daily News. Hey, before we talk football, Brasky, Gino and I were talking earlier in the show. Who you got tonight? You got Tyson or you got Jake Paul? Who do you got?
I am hoping for Tyson. Not a big Jake Paul fan, but I think Jake Paul is going to win this one. I think Tyson is, what is he, approaching 50? Is he over 50? I'm not sure.
He's over 50.
He's 58.
Yeah. Approaching 60. Okay, so, yeah, I'm not sure he has a hope in this one. I don't think he's got any George Foreman heroics in store for us.
He's a lot more yoked than Foreman was when he got back into the ring. He's massive.
Wow,
He does look good. He does look good in that Speedo. I'll tell you that. I saw him last night. He is rock solid still. Iron Mike, as they say.
Alex, what does this look like if Amari Cooper's not out there, or he's out there with like one hand? Like, what can you tell us here about the two guys that are questionable, Amari Cooper and then Spencer Brown at right tackle here?
Yeah, it doesn't look great in terms of the Bills' pass-catching core. Amari Cooper, still wearing that wrap on his injured right wrist, appears set to play with it on Sunday. He does appear set to play. We talked with him on Thursday, and he does say he's going to give it a go, but I'm not sure how much he's going to be able to contribute with that wrist. He was catching some passes from Josh Allen in practice on Thursday. That was the first time we saw him do so since sustaining that wrist injury. But it's a lot different in the game, right? With a defender on you in traffic to come down with those passes, with that encumbrance on your hand can certainly prove difficult. And I think the bigger deal is you're now without Dalton Kincaid. So what are you going to get from Dawson Knox? Maybe a little bit more Quentin Morris, and Matt Collins and Curtis Samuel are going to have to step up as well with Keon Coleman remaining out.
Alex, I always think with the Bills and what it's been recently, it's been a race to 30. If you can get 30 points out of the Bills' offense, then the defense will do enough for you to get that win, and it's kind of been the fuel to get them here on this winning streak against Kansas City's defense. I feel like it's more like, for both teams, a race to 20. Do you see the game the same way? Do you feel like this might be a lower scoring affair than what Vegas or a lot of casual fans might expect out of Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes?
Absolutely. It's been quite some time since his Kansas City team allowed 30 points to an opposing offense. And if you look back at the history of this matchup since 2017, it's really hovered right around that 20, 25 point mark is what you kind of earmark for each team. The last matchup last year in the postseason, 27-24. Then you had a 20-17, 24-20. I think that's what you can expect in this one, with the Chiefs having perhaps the best defense in the NFL. The Bills' defense also performing top-notch this year. And with the injuries the Bills have encountered on the offensive side of the ball, I think they might try to grind this one out, use their running game to their advantage. So, yeah, I don't think you're going to see a shootout in this one, 40-35, anything like that. I think it's going to be a well-played game from both sides, and
right around that 20, 25-point mark. I've yet to do my prediction on my 5 takes, but that's where I'm sitting at this point.
Okay. Alex Brasky, Bills Digest, Batavia Daily News. Alex, I'm going to go off the road here just a little bit here. And one of the storylines here is, hey, the Bills have been putting up points. How are they doing this without Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and all these, and Mensch Morris and everything? And, well, I'm bringing this up in the context. We were talking before you came on. There's a report from Josina Anderson that if the Jaguars lose to Detroit, that their head coach would be fired, Doug Peterson. And what about the viability of Joe Brady as a head coach? Is he going to get interviews? Is he ready for that? I certainly think that if the Bills go, on this run here, some of the credit's going to go in his way. How do you view Brady at this point in his career?
Yeah, I think he's certainly trending in that direction, and the way that the Bills have been able to ease into this transition on the offensive side of the ball certainly bodes well in terms of his head coaching candidacy in the future. And if you listen to him talk during his press conferences, that's certainly on his mind. A young coach, up and coming, came from the college ranks, really was jet set for stardom, and took a step back there in Carolina, but has really regrouped in a good situation here in Buffalo. I think he's got leadership material written all over him. He's seen a lot in these 2 stops, and coaching under a veteran head coach such as Sean McDermott has certainly served him well as well. So, yeah, I think he's got head coaching material written all over him. I'm not sure if it'll be after this season, perhaps in the future if the Bills continue along this trajectory offensively. But I really like what he's done with this Bills offense, making it a more balanced unit, kind of reining in Josh Allen a little bit, taking some of the pressure off his shoulders and allowing him to operate within the confines of the offense. So it's been impressive what he's been able to do, particularly when you understand the transition that they had to go through entering this season. I think he's on the road for a head coaching job, and it's just a matter of when, I think, not if.
Alex, it's something that is a massive part of their success offensively that doesn't get talked about enough, in my opinion, and that is the continuity that they've had on the offensive line. And if we don't see Spencer Brown on Sunday, I want to say that's the first time that we haven't had the same 5 guys on. Well, I mean, certainly this season, but even dating back to last year, you still had that continuity where all the guys were starting every game. So tell us what we know about Ryan Vandemark here, a guy that might get thrust into duty if Brown misses time.
Yeah, I mentioned all the transition this offense went through during the offseason. I was one that was very concerned about the transition that they'd go through along the offensive line with David Edwards being inserted at left guard and Connor McGovern taking over at center. But, boy, they've really hit the ground running and made that transition a smooth one as well. We talked with Brown after, I believe it was Wednesday's practice. His ankle's still a bit swollen. He was wearing a sandal trying to get some range of motion in that ankle. And then during Thursday's practice, I saw him in the field house working with athletic trainers. So it seems like he's doing everything he can to get out there on Sunday. It's just going to be a matter of how effective can he be playing through that injury and whether or not they want to test him in that regard. But Vandemark played well in his time on the field this past week against the Colts. He's been within the Bills system, kind of been a rising star for them. He was set back, I think, to begin the year when they elected to use Tylen Grable as that extra swing tackle, and Vandemark was inactive a few times until Grable was forced onto injured reserve. But I think they like what they've seen from Vandemark these past few seasons. He just has yet to really receive that opportunity to prove himself during a regular season opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to offer if he's provided starters snaps this weekend against the Chiefs, a defense that, like I said earlier, has performed as one of the best in the NFL.
Alex, if the Bills come out on top, is Josh Allen, is the MVP his to lose? If he gets in the regular season the win over Kansas City here, or does that even, I mean, to what degree does it matter? I mean, Josh Allen's not going to talk about that publicly. Does that matter to him personally, do you think?
I would venture to say it does matter to him personally. Any competitor, you want to be considered the best at your position, the best in your sport for this matter, especially the way that the Bills have kind of been jockeying for position with the Ravens and the Chiefs, and Allen has been jockeying for position with Mahomes and Jackson these past few years in terms of who's the best team and who's the best quarterback in the NFL. So I think it would be shocking if it didn't mean anything to him. But like you said, he's not going to come out and put that above the team goal. I think the ultimate goal is still beating the Chiefs, beating whoever's in front of you in the playoffs, reaching the Super Bowl. And Josh Allen mentioned as much during his press availability this week, said that really all that matters is the Bills still haven't beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs. So until they do that, they'll still have plenty left to prove. But in terms of the MVP race this season, it's tough for me to say that you can put Josh Allen out there at the forefront of it with the way that Lamar Jackson is playing. I know he's perhaps got more around him with that running game and Derrick Henry, what he's had to offer in his first season in Baltimore. But if you look back at that Houston game, Josh Allen 9 for 30, and then 2 interceptions this past week against the Colts that were really ugly. I think those 2 games really stand out as subpar performances from Allen. And although he got it done when it mattered against the Colts, and you have to give him credit for that, they were able to come away with the win. There has been some ugly moments for him this year, and I'm not so sure there's been as many ugly moments for Jackson throughout the course of this season.
Alex, defensively, the run defense for the Buffalo Bills reared their ugly head again against the Colts, and Jonathan Taylor ran wild for a good part of the game. For some reason, they kind of went away from him in the second half of that game. And I have a feeling Kansas City won't make the same mistake, although it is not Jonathan Taylor or a back of that level. It is Kareem Hunt, and a guy who's gotten a lot of volume here in his return to Kansas City, but not a lot of efficiency. So if you're the Bills defense, if you're Sean McDermott here, what are you doing? What are you keying in on to slow down Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I think you need your defensive line to win its battles up front. Von Miller has really come on strong. He had a big run stuff this past week against the Colts. Greg Rousseau, we all know what he can do against the run. You need more from Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones. You just have not gotten enough from that duo this season. Daquan Jones might be toast as a player. He's dealt with injuries these past couple of years. He really came on strong to begin last season, but going out for that extended time, he's never been able to regenerate that momentum that we saw from him to start last season. And Ed Oliver has been a big-time disappointment after a huge season last year. They give him the contract, and he has not made the impact that they've expected out of him. He did deal with that hamstring injury, which forced him out of action, so you have to take that into account. But still, you need more from Oliver. You need more from Jones if he still has any left in the tank. And then some of these backup defensive tackles, some of these reserve guys, Jordan Phillips, Quentin Jefferson, both of them made an impact against the Colts. And if you look at that performance of the Bills' run defense against Indianapolis in totality, I think they performed a little bit better than it seemed against Jonathan Taylor. If you take away that long gain of about 40-something yards, he also had a 22-yard gain. But aside from that, I think they did a pretty good job on him in terms of stopping him with consistency. I think those 2 big gains, I think, kind of made things look a bit lot more lopsided than it was. But I think if you look at that performance from the Bills' run defense in totality, I think it was a little bit better than the numbers may indicate.
Alex, Matt Milano not going to be activated for this game, but then coming off a bye, perhaps for the 49ers. I mean, it's a tough question for me to ask you because we really don't know. But what I can tell you from what we saw at camp, I was just wondering at camp, all right, that's a major knee issue he's coming off of. Might have this been a blessing in disguise, maybe, that because, they gave him a little more time to work on that major knee injury here coming back here. What are your thoughts here on Milano and a possible return?
It's tough for me to say that it was a blessing in disguise. Any player at his age, not that he's an extremely old player, but an aging player, I think, at 30 or just over 30, to have as extended of a layoff as he's experienced, I don't think that's good in any way, shape, or form. But what I saw from him on Thursday, getting out there for the first time in view of the media since his pectoral injury during the preseason, didn't seem to be suffering any ill effects in terms of working the heavy tackling dummy or working against the sled. Now, we didn't see him pursuing defenders in the flat, working in coverage over the middle, so I think there's still maybe some paths to be crossed there. But what I saw from Milano on Thursday, I think he's healthy. I think he's ready to return after the bye week, and we'll see what he has to offer against the 49ers or perhaps the week after.
All right, so where do you stand, Alex, on this? Because we've been talking all week long about kind of managing expectations here. I mean, I think there are a lot of fans that view this game as if, well, if they lose, it doesn't matter because they're still going to win the division and they'll probably meet up again in the playoffs, and that's the game that really matters. Or are you of the belief that this game is everything for this team to get over on Kansas City and to get closer to potentially getting the 1 seed in the AFC, which is a route to in the postseason that the Bills have yet to experience with Josh Allen?
No, I am not in the camp that this 1 seed means everything this season. I think in past years you thought it did with the Bills, and maybe it didn't turn out to be as important as you thought with the last 2 seasons ending on the Bills' home field. So you also have to take that into account. But I think for me it comes down to the late bye for the Bills. The Bills having that Week 12 bye week, it's not as critical to have that bye in the first round of the playoffs as far as rest is concerned. The Chiefs had an early season bye week. It may be a bit more significant for them just to have that extra time off leading into that second season. But I think the Bills, with that Week 12 bye week, they'll have time to rest, recuperate, and then regenerate their momentum for the late season stretch. And perhaps a first-round bye would work against them in that case with that late season bye. So, no, I am not in the camp that it means everything. Now, you'd like to play on your own home field. You'd like to avoid playing in Kansas City. But my cohort, AJ Zabolski, made a good point on our podcast right here, right now, last night, saying that really what it comes down to, you want to avoid getting that divisional round matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. You want to find a way to get that 2 or 3 seed if the Chiefs are able to win out or work their way to that top seed. You want to avoid that matchup with the Chiefs in round 2.
Yeah, I think the 2 seed is certainly within play, and maybe you get to a point where the 2 seed is wrapped up, and then you kind of have a quasi-bye there in that last game against New England where you could rest some guys. Alex, appreciate your time here today. Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, right here, right now podcast. What's coming up with in terms of content we can go check out here?
Yeah, I'm going to be on the sidelines today tonight, actually, at the 8-man football final at Pittsford Sutherland High School. 2 teams that we cover, Pembroke and Holly Lindenville, squaring off with some big-time 8-man football. Pembroke looking for the 3-peat, so that should be exciting. But beyond that, tune into thedailyNewsOnline.com. Myself, AJ, covering the Bills matchup this weekend against the Chiefs, the Right Here, Right Now podcast on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. And, of course, Aaron Boone, 1 more year.
Oh, you must be very excited. You know, we're going to have Mike Catalan on 13 Wham on Monday, and he's texting me his excitement about the Phillies pursuing Juan Soto. Are you worried about your Yankees if Juan Soto just goes to the highest bidder and it's not the Yankees?
Oh, of course. He was everything for them this season, and particularly in the playoffs with the way that Aaron Judge crapped the bed, as they say. Yeah, you need to get Juan Soto back. You need to sell the house, as they say. Do anything you can, especially you cannot let him go to the New York Mets. That cannot happen. Even more than you need him on your team, you cannot let him go to Queens with Steve Cohen in that squad and let Gene celebrate. You can't let that happen.
I don't know, Gene. Would you be happy if you had Juan Soto on your roster?
I told Catalana when he's the like $700 million. No, I don't like
You
building a team like that.
still say no.
I still say no. I still say go get Corbin Burns. Go get some other pieces. Let Soto stay with the Yankees, Alex. There you go. Don't say I'm not a generous guy.
You don't want Soto then.
Not at that price.
Not at that price. I just don't think that's the guy you build your team around. Like, guys at that price should be generational, like a Judge or an Ohtani.
You don't consider Soto generational?
No, because then we would have 3 generational players in the sport at the same time. At best, he's number 4 right now, behind Harper at number 3.
We'll have to workshop this, Gene.
Alex, enjoy your weekend, buddy. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, boys.
Appreciate you. Alex Brasky. Check out his work at the Batavia Daily News. Does a great job as the editor of Bills Digest as well.
Okay. Would you agree with me on that, like in terms of generational talents in baseball today?
All right. Give me your top 5.
Top 5. All right. Well, am I putting Soto at 4? I mean, it's Ohtani and Judge. I'm putting Ohtani ahead of Judge. I'm still got Harper at 3.
And then you say Soto at 4?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you put Skeens?
Got to see more.
Got to see more.
Got to see more.
Got to see more out of Soto, too?
He's 26. No, he's ready. He's ready. He's going to make some team.
Somebody's going to pay him $700 million.
Right, but then something could go side. Like, I thought Tatis was on this track, and he still may be, but now he kind of did some things that was himself there.
Not sold on Soto, more sold on Judge. And Judge has been at it a while now, but Judge hasn't won anything. Harper, I like Harper. I like that a lot.
Mike Trout.
Not a winner. Not my top 5. Get out of here.
No?
Not a winner.
Bobby Witt Jr.
Nice player.
Bobby Witt Jr. would be number 5 probably for me.
Yeah, nice player. You wouldn't want him at $700 million?
No, just because you're going to be looking around the room at that point. Is that the guy you want for year after year?
Well, we don't know what kind of a teammate he is. I mean, all counts is he's a pretty good teammate. He's,
sure. So,
yeah. Well, I love Alex coming in here and laying it all off for us here. Bills and Chiefs, of course, late afternoon window on Sunday, and Orchard Park is just going to be buzzing with the NFL Today, hanging out, and everything that comes with that.
The extra few hours of tailgating too. Like if you normally just work this out. Like normally, okay, you know what, we're going to leave like at 8:30, 4.5 hours before a 1 o'clock kickoff. You're not leaving at 11:30. You're still leaving like at 9 or 10.
Yeah, you're going early.
Yeah, you're going earlier. Yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, and the weather decent, right? Overcast,
but yeah, not gonna
manageable.
Not gonna rain,
nothing that'll affect our moods. We'll have our own attitude adjustments before kickoff. I love that. And of course, you mentioned Mike Catalano will be stopping by the sports bar come Monday for his reaction, and I says here that Jay Binkley is going to be stopping by as well. Win or lose, he's coming into the sports bar again Monday afternoon.
I could just record it right now. You know,
fellows,
this doesn't mean anything. Like, it's really good, you know. Like, we'll just kind of check back, fellas. We didn't have, like, the excuses will be there. We didn't have Harrison Butker. We had the backup kicker. The backup kicker missed a kick.
That'll be a Monday afternoon.
Oh, we should mention, too, for next week, this time next week, you and I will be a few cold ones in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is going to be fun. Our next Friday Football Talk Live from Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the Arts. Bye week, Friday Football Talk Live.
Yeah, and bye week, and then your favorite holiday, my favorite holiday. It's kicking off Thanksgiving week.
Yes.
So, yes, we will talk to Andy Behrens as we normally do on a Friday. Chris Trapasso will be coming in, CBS Sports. So we'll kind of discuss here what he's seen off the Bills roster and also look ahead to the draft a little bit. And then the Nighthawks will be stopping by, too. They're doing their kickoff party right there, and who knows? I wonder if they have the Sprucifer over there yet, Danger. Is it too soon?
Sprucifer's a good one, yeah.
Is that too soon for this?
I don't think so. I don't think it's too soon. I'll look that up. That is that's an all-timer. But I got to say, the Leaping Hazy has really kind of like warmed my heart this football season as well.
Yeah, and if the Nighthawks are there, we'll be tasting the Nighthawk Hazy IPA
the Nighthawk Hazy IPA is, I mean, you really can't go wrong with anything they're serving on tap there at Three Heads. So we invite you to come out and enjoy some delicious Three Heads and some Friday Football Talk Live with the Sports Bar. We'll be there a week from today in the neighborhood of the Arts on Atlantic Avenue from 3 until 6. We look forward to seeing you there. Cut out early. Get your Thanksgiving week started early a week from today. Happy Hour is next on The Fan. We'll continue to discuss Bills and Chiefs. We heard from Sean McDermott. We'll get the injury update from the coach and go over that injury update and who's in and who's out. And break down this matchup, give our predictions as well. You can do likewise at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening HD2 and W239BF Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Bills are going to be shorthanded on offense against Kansas City on Sunday. We already knew Keon Coleman is out. Now Dalton Kincaid has been ruled out. Amari Cooper and Spencer Brown both are questionable. With Dawson Knox ready to get an expanded role this week.
You know, guys have been stepping up all year. We've had injuries in a lot of positions. So I think it's just whenever your number's called, you got to step up and make plays. But thankfully, I've got some good experience, before he was here as well.
Bills and Chiefs, our pregame coverage Sunday will begin at noon. The game can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. We have Amerks hockey on Sunday afternoon. They're in Toronto. The Amerks hosting Laval tomorrow. That'll be a 5 o'clock puck drop. RIT home tonight and tomorrow. Army coming in. The Sabres have won 4 of 5. They're in Philadelphia tomorrow night. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Bills, Chiefs, 425 live Sunday right here.
I see this being like a 2017 game. I think this is kind of a ball control game. I get it. It's the biggest game of the year, and that's not because it's the next team. It's the biggest game of the year because it's the 9-0 Chiefs and the 8-2 Bills. That's why this is a massive game. But the ultimate narrative, I don't think, changes all that much.
The key in this one is going to be, can Kansas City run the ball with Kareem Hunt? And then can Kansas City force Josh Allen to do something that he hasn't done much this year? And that, of course, make the red zone mistake. If he does, I think the Chiefs win.
Mike Danger.
Man, I would love to tell you that the Bills are going to win this game. I just don't think they have enough offensively to be able to beat Kansas City. It's going to be close.
Okay.
2017, Kansas City. Ooh.
Gene Battaglia.
Couldn't you see a scenario where you get a takeaway, a quick score, and maybe another quick score, and all of a sudden the shout song's playing again, do, and it just becomes a long party, and the Chiefs are like, you know what? We'll see you in January.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, we have plenty of time for your calls. If you want to join us, we welcome you into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia. Our number is 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Happy Hour. You can reach out to us on Elon's Twitter. That's X at the Fan Rochester. Chris in South Central Kentucky. My prediction is Bills 24, Chiefs 21. Taylor Swift has the Takeo Spikes suite. And because the Bills win, they don't miss the playoffs. Per Tommy, that's from this morning. Jake Paul goes 3 rounds with Tyson before being knocked out. Tyson's defense is impregnable.
What was the bonus bet today from Tommy?
That the Bills would miss the playoffs.
What?
That Josh Allen was going to score a rushing touchdown, and the Bills would miss the playoffs. If they lose, they're going to miss the playoffs.
What? Okay. Well, see, from his standpoint, could you theoretically say, oh, my gosh, you lost then to San Francisco and Detroit?
What makes it a fun bit is it's clear he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he doesn't realize it until after he's said what he has said. Because if you watch the NFL or follow the NFL, you know the Bills have like a 99% chance of making the postseason. All they have to do is win the division. And even if they don't win the division, which is highly unlikely at this point, the chances are they're a wild card team. 99% chance to make it the postseason. So it's like you don't realize that they could lose this game, and it really won't affect their chances of making the playoffs at all.
No, it'd be kind of, you let go of the idea that this would be the year they're the 1 seed. I don't think anybody was thinking 1 seed going
Dude, I wasn't thinking playoffs. I mean, honestly, they have 8 wins right now, and that was what I thought they would have for this season. I think this has been an unbelievable job by Sean McDermott through the course of this year. I mean, we could point at the Houston game and be like, what the hell was he thinking? I would listen to that. You could say maybe they weren't ready for the physicality, what Baltimore threw at them, and that loss as well. And the defense has been very bend but don't break. They haven't quite figured out how to stop the run with any sort of consistency, but he's done a great job this year. And the coordinators have done a nice job this year. Josh has done a nice job this year as well.
I think it's the missing pieces in this game. Who's it going to affect more? On this side in Buffalo, all right, no Keon Coleman, no Dalton Kincaid, and we're not sure about Amari Cooper and Spencer Brown. But on the other side, we already knew no Isaiah Pacheco, and then we learned yesterday, like normally the kicker, I'm like, oh, who cares? But Harrison Butker's one of those guys who can change the outcome of a game. So, Danger, which team is missing something more? I would say this. I think Kansas City will be kind of limited with their running backs as opposed to if they had Pacheco today. When these two teams see one another, notice I'm already predicting we're going to be playing these guys.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have Pacheco in the lineup. It's going to be a lot different. So whatever happens on Sunday, it's going to be just take it in stride. A win or a loss doesn't even matter.
Well, I think it does matter because I think a lot of people would love to see this team as a 1 seed in the AFC. And if, by the way, you're the 1 seed in the AFC, chances are Josh Allen is your league MVP. I mean, like, there's...
Well, that's fair. I listened to that, too. Like, the idea that Allen loses this game head-to-head with Mahomes, that's going to be a big kind of hole to dig out of. He wants to be the MVP, but he performs well in front of the whole country.
Right. If you look at how he's played this season versus how Mahomes has played this season, I think you would give the edge to Allen. If you talk about the coaching staffs, I think you give a huge advantage to the Kansas City Chiefs. Offense, defense, special teams. I mean, really, to me, is like a wash. I think both defenses are good, and I think this will be a little bit of a defensive battle. I don't think that just because it's Mahomes and Allen, you're going to see a lot of points in this game. I think both teams are going to want to keep offenses on the sideline, so the long sustained drive will be the rule of the day. I have a 2017 Kansas City, and I could very easily see it being 2017 Buffalo in the same breath. But I just think with Kansas City, the way they're winning games, and they're all close games. They're not winning games by multiple scores. They're just hanging around in every game and making it difficult to get over on them. If the Bills somehow find a way to win and win big against Kansas City, make a statement against Kansas City, I mean, ultimately, we might be satisfied for 24 hours after the game. But when you look at the bigger picture of it, it's like, oh, congratulations. When it really matters, you have to do that then.
I'm looking at a scenario where the Bills do win this game. I have a 20-10 Buffalo, but I still don't think they get the 1 seed danger. You know, lots can change, certainly with injuries and whatnot, but the idea you got San Francisco, and then you got to play the Rams and Detroit on the road. Those are tough assignments, and you're not going to run the table in that stretch there. And then you look at Kansas City, they go to Carolina next week, and sure, they have some divisional games. Ooh, and yes, they get the Steelers on Christmas Day, but you would still need the Chiefs to kind of slip up, and then you would have to be perfect the rest of the way out if you're Buffalo.
Right, and the Bills have a tough schedule up ahead as well yet. I think there's also this that we've talked about through the course of the week, the idea that Mahomes is coming into this game as an underdog does not bode well for the Buffalo Bills. It historically has not been good for opponents of the Chiefs when they are underdogs in the Mahomes era. 11-3 straight up when Mahomes is the underdog as a starter for the Chiefs. 12-1-1 against the spread. However, down the stretch here, dating back to 2018, and their inability to cover last week as a 7.5-point favorite against the Broncos, that's their third straight game that they've lost against the spread, and their winning percentage in weeks 8 through 18, dating back to when Mahomes started, 404. Only the Jets have been worse after week 7 the last 7 seasons. For what that's worth. So maybe there's a little bit of evening out there, but Mahomes as an underdog, Vegas didn't do the Bills any favor with that line, and you say it moved back to 2?
It moved back to 2. So 3 straight weeks we've had line moving against Buffalo here, and I get it. They're the defending champs. They haven't lost a game this year, and you're going to give me points? Well, that seems like a pretty good bet. I just would love to know, maybe somebody smarter than me that can explain this, is that public money going on this, or is this sharp money? Sounds like public money to me.
We know that Dalton Kincaid will be out. They'll be without their second-year tight end. Amari Cooper, Spencer Brown, both limited in practice today, questionable for Sunday. Sean McDermott on Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox earlier.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly you have to kind of pivot a little bit in some areas. Joe has done a great job with that, and the staff as well. And just a lot of communication, a lot of, hey, what are we good at? What's this player best at? And just trying to at the same time make sure that we're aware of what the Chiefs plan to do.
How much does it help to have a guy like Dawson who's been a veteran and been successful here for a while?
Yeah, I mean, he's it's just great to have him. It really is. It's such an important piece for us. us, a leader for us as well, and just fun to really watch him grow. And I think he made the comment to me last week just about, hey, a lot of young guys coming up to him saying, hey, that was a great game, great catch. And he's like, they weren't here. He's like, I've been doing this for a while, you know. So I just love that kind of veteran piece that he brings to our team.
Isn't it funny to hear Dawson Knox say, I've been doing this for a while?
He caught 2 touchdowns in a playoff game against Miami. Like, he was the security blanket for Josh Allen. And look, you got to give Brandon Beane credit. He saw it. Like, you know, we need something more out of that position. But for a short kind of stretch here, you're hoping that the week off will do well for Kincaid. I'm not as optimistic about Amari Cooper. Hearing Brownie and Matty Glab today on One Bills Live kind of discuss what this cast is he's wearing and how, yes, it's flexible, but no, it's not going to give him all what he would like in terms of his thumb, in terms of motion there. Okay, well, just do the exercise yourself. How do you catch a ball if with 9 digits here? I suppose you can corral it in, but that's tough.
Here's Amari Cooper earlier on his wrist injury. Stand by.
Definitely feeling better, definitely more comfortable. So, just ready to play football again.
What are the next steps to get you back to game action?
Yeah, I mean, just continuing to practice, you know what I'm saying, go about the day, see how it feels, and then, we'll be good to go.
Do you feel like you can play this week? Like you feel like it's heading in that direction?
Yeah, I do.
Is there anything, is it comfort in your hand? Is it pain? Like, what is it that you feel specifically more comfortable this week?
Well, I got a cast on, so not very accustomed to catching with one of these on or playing with one of them on, so, yeah.
I saw you catching some passes from Josh today. Like, how did that feel?
It felt good. Like I said, don't really feel pain or anything catching the ball. It's just got to get used to, catching the ball with it.
So if you played, you will be wearing that in the game?
Yeah.
What is it about wearing it that makes it more challenging or different? I mean, obviously we know it's on your hand, but, what is it in terms of the mechanics of catching a ball that makes it different and you need to adjust to?
I mean, it's just foreign. When you catch the ball, you rely on your hands, It's just an added layer to that. That makes it, I guess you would say, more difficult, but it's just part of the game,
How familiar are you with Chiefs Bills?
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with it in terms of obviously playing in the actual games, but, as a football player, seeing the games, it's just like one of the great rivalries that pretty much occur in, all major sports between two teams, who have been playing at a high level for a long time. So
I'll tell you what, after hearing him talk about the cast and the rap on his, I don't want him to play. I don't. You're not going to get points for toughness if you go out there, play with a cast or a rap on your hand and it ends up being a fumble or you're a liability. Turnovers are so critical, and if you can avoid those turnovers, and if he's a liability out there with that wrap on his hand, don't play. Do not play. Don't do it. And I'm more concerned about Spencer Brown actually than I would be about Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I think Spencer Brown. Although Ryan Vandermark came in and did some good things last week, but this is, this isn't the Colts here. Basically, this is, and granted, the Colts have an okay defensive line, but okay, what does the world look like then if you don't have Cooper and Kincaid and Coleman? Okay, you have Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, and then certainly Khalil Shakir is your 1, 2, 3. Jalen Virgil, who are you promoting? Is it another Tyrell Shavers game you're moving him up?
I think it's probably a Tyrell Shavers game, and you're going to continue to lean on the guys that are out there. Shakir being number 1. Dawson Knox, I would say, probably, being number 2. And look, Samuel didn't have eye-popping stats, but at least he showed up against Indianapolis. It's like, oh, that's right. We still have that guy.
I'm wondering if Samuel is just, because you always hear this at the end of the year, like, what have been the injuries? This goes back to training camp. Has the guy actually been healthy all along? So I would hope that maybe we see a little more of Curtis Samuel. Mac Hollins, to me, and I put this out on X last week, he has a spot on any team as a 5th wide receiver. Seems to know where he is on special teams, very good blocker. How could other teams just kind of pass on this? He's never going to be a 1 or 2 or 3, but you need a guy like that at the back end.
Yeah, and he'll get dirty. He'll do the things that a lot of receivers struggle with, mainly blocking. I mean, watch him block in that Miami game specifically. I mean, a big game against Miami, but just blocking guys to the moon in the run game, at his wide receiver position and catching touchdown passes. I mean, these guys, had a great game against Miami, and I think does those things that are it's catnip for coaches when you see a player do what he does.
Is it catnip for Sean McDermott, or does this annoy him? This story about Mac Hollins being late for a team meeting because, well, he didn't realize that the hotel elevator, I don't use elevators. I only walk the stairs.
I didn't know this story. What is this? Was this reported? What is this story?
This was I think it was in Indianapolis.
Oh.
Yeah, that he was late for a team meeting because he didn't realize what floor it was on, and he doesn't take elevators. He walks upstairs.
Right. I guess that probably comes with the territory with Mac Hollins. You have to kind of expect that he's going to be himself. He's going to be a quirky guy. You might want to give yourself a couple extra minutes if you know stairs are going to be involved rather than the elevator. But that's who he is. I rather enjoy his life hacks on TikTok. I mean, he's just peppering me with content, all kinds of ways to keep your house clean and fold a shirt and a fitted bed sheet. Mac Hollins is a wizard at all of
like a hot water heater, how to replace it. He was teaching us one day. Like, he's a man's man.
At X on X at the Fan Rochester, where Peter chimes in. I'm going to Binkley this.
No.
Chiefs 27, Bills 23. Speaking of Binkley, Jay Binkley from our Odyssey Sports sister station, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City. Win or lose, joins us on Monday. But we can kind of already predict what that conversation is going to be like no matter what the outcome.
I feel like I'm the wet blanket on the show today, too, for the secondary story here in the sports bar today. I don't want to see Mike Tyson, just the shell of what I remember from growing up, how this guy, he was the cage tiger. You unleash him and he's going to knock somebody out. And then that all kind of changed in Tokyo one night, and then he had his issues, and, well, that was it. And now here at age 58, I would just say, why? You want the paycheck? You want to kind of rewrite? I'm just wondering, like, he's getting ready to go out there, if he's going to kind of cross his mind, like, what am I doing this for here tonight?
Well, he's probably doing it for the money. More than
other
anything.
than that.
But the idea that both of these guys have trained like crazy. I mean, Tyson for being, what is he, 58?
58.
For being 58 is yoked. I mean, the guy is shredded. We should all hope to look like what Mike Tyson looks like at age 58. That guy is training. And, youth is a bitch. Youth might tag him. Paul might tag him because he's so much younger. Certainly nowhere near as skilled as Tyson. And what does Tyson have left in that punch, man? Does Tyson have enough to put him down? I hope he destroys him. But I think everybody of our age, the only reason why I'm excited about it, the biggest reason why I'm excited, not the only reason, the biggest reason is just the nostalgia of it. We're talking about a Mike Tyson fight again. I mean, when was the last time we talked about a boxing match that had any sort of pop culture relevance in our society?
Not since you and I have been doing this show.
Pacquiao and Mayweather, right? I mean,
but this
was the
isn't.
last one.
But this is more of an exhibition.
You're right.
This isn't a real boxing match. This is, let's make some money. And shocking that Jerry Jones, this is in his venue here tonight. And gosh, Cowboys playing on Monday night. I'm sure we're going to see CeeDee Lamb or some people like right out there. Yes, I will put it on. I'm calling the RIT.
Wow.
I have to.
Wow. You've come a long way in 24 hours, Gino. You were against this yesterday. You were making fun. You're like, congratulations, Danger. They got you. Oh, yeah, they got me. I'm nostalgic as hell. This is something I want to see because I can't get the visions of Mike Tyson pummeling fools when I was younger. It was amazing.
What is the if the card starts at 8 o'clock, this isn't. Like, you have to be refreshed, right? Like, this isn't going till 11 or midnight tonight, right?
You mentioned being the wet blanket. I mean, I don't want to be a wet blanket for all sports fans, but what if everything just falls short of expectation this weekend, including tonight's fight, including Sunday's game? If you're watching Sunday's game thinking shootout, I mean, it's Mahomes and Bills. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be like 13 seconds all over again. Probably not.
Or what would be falling short is turnovers and sloppy play.
Right.
Yeah. Like, wait a second. This isn't Chiefs Bills. This is not what we're accustomed to here.
Yeah. That wouldn't surprise me if everything this weekend just kind of fell short of expectation, including tonight's fight. I mean, let's face it. How many times did you watch a Tyson fight back in the day expecting a good fight, and it's over in 13 seconds? And you're like, what? That's it? It's over already? And I paid for that? Ugh. Maybe that's what it is. It could be the other way around. It could be Paul knocking out Tyson right away.
Dude, that was 35 years ago, though.
Isn't it crazy?
It was 35 years ago, and there's no other parallel to this where somebody from then, like Wayne Gretzky's you're not tuning in for Michael Jordan or whoever else was.
Jordan's going to attempt to do the free throw or the dunk from the free throw line. Like, I don't want to watch the greatest of all time get hung up in the net.
So why would tonight be any different? Like, aren't you going to get just two guys kind of dancing around? And sure, they may look like they're physically in shape. They may be muscular now, but like when it comes to what do they call it? The sweet science of boxing? Like, you really think?
Well, I would still give the advantage there to Tyson. That Tyson is probably the better boxer of the two. And then it's just a matter of the violence. I guess why are we tuning in? I want to see. Nostalgia is number one for me. That's what has got me interested in it. And then when we watch it, what do we watch football for? We watch it for the competition. We watch it for the drama. We watch it for the violence. We watch it. There's it stems back to the gladiator days, right? Like we've had this in our bloodline, in our DNA for generations and generations and generations, and it kind of scratches that itch.
I guess that's what MMA has been here too. I mean, that's like they've taken the thrown away from
and
boxing.
I probably should be more into MMA than, the way I'm talking about boxing, I should be more into MMA. But MMA doesn't feel special to me because I feel like there's always something going on with MMA, much like there was with boxing as we were growing up. There was always something going on. There's always a fight on. And now you have that with MMA for, I feel like, maybe the next generation of fight fans. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I just think it's a matter of what you're comfortable with and what I enjoyed watching boxing as a kid.
Well, you and we have different plans tonight. I've got Tiger Hockey. You've got Sebastian Maniscalco.
Of course I've got Sebastian Maniscalco, Gene, because he's Italian.
That should be a lot of fun for you tonight. I don't think we have any worries there, unless you and the Goombas are going to go out there and throw a few back there. And
wait, are you actually thinking that they're going to show up to the Sebastian Maniscalco show? That the guys in my neighborhood would go to this show? Have I talked about the guys in my neighborhood?
I would think there's probably 3 rows. Like, this is the North Grilton section here tonight. The Blue Cross Arena.
And we got Tony, we got Doug, we got Nikki G, we got Q's, we got Tony, we got Joey Dryer Sheets, we got Tom, we got Timmy Parmesan, we got Tony, Richie C, Nikki Eye Drops, Tony, Rob, Frank, Tony, Nikki Signs, Sammy the Bull, and I'm forgetting somebody now.
Tony. Someday you're going to meet Tony Gazzetta too. Your other
Hey,
yeah,
Tony Gazzetta. Of course I'm going to meet him. You know what? Because he's Italian.
He's also a Bears fan too. You can, you guys will hit it right off.
Just going to be miserable together. Yeah, so it's really about with the neighborhood. It's like, hey, where you sitting? Where you sitting? Where are we meeting up? We're going to meet up afterwards. We're going to get some food. Where are we going to get some food? Let's get some wings. Oh, yeah, I want to go. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait.
Do you drop the girls off, and then are they coming too? And then
oh, no, they're coming with me to the show, and if we all go out afterwards.
And the girls will come too.
They're coming along. I think they're in for the long haul. And by long haul, I don't know how long the night is. It's been a while since I've been to a comedy show at an arena. And by a while, I don't think I've ever been to a comedy show at an arena. I think I've only done comedy shows in nightclubs, now that I think about it.
Well, I've done it in theaters.
Yeah.
Like Chris Rock out in
Seinfeld, I remember seeing
at
Kodak, not Kodak Theater, at Eastman Theater. I remember that years ago. But an arena? This is a new experience for me. I've never seen. And, Maniscalco's been here a bunch, so I know a lot of people are like, been there, done that. I think it's going to be. I'm going because my daughters kind of discovered his stand-up during the pandemic, and it provided a lot of laughs during a time where laughs were hard to come by. So we'll always have.
It's funny. Like, for you, it's Maniscalco. For our family, it was Gabriel Iglesias. Like, kids are watching, like, wait, this guy's kind of funny. And then You watch with your kids and kind of laugh.
Yeah.
Okay, good for you. I'm glad that that works out tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna have a blast. And you know what? Wishing everybody a great weekend. You got Tigers hockey, Section 5 football finals.
Oh yeah, we'll get to the lineup there and shots here tonight. Like you're talking about things that you didn't expect in Section 5.
Yeah.
Good luck to everybody.
Yeah,
tonight,
it's gonna be good. So we'll get to a round of shots next here in the sports bar.
Yeah, as we will set you up here for the weekend. College football we really haven't tackled. Hey, the Sabres. I'm going to give them credit. They played some smart hockey last night. I'll explain what they did at the end of regulation that really gave them the extra point here. Could we see a return of a player that kind of left baseball in 2019? He's trying to make a comeback overseas. And then, hey, the Yankees have named their new voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened right after we got off the air last night. I guess this is really the end for John Sterling.
It is. He was on with Maggie and Perloff this morning. We'll get into all of that and more next.
John Sterling was?
No, the new
the
voice.
new guy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Round of shots next. Last call coming up before 6 o'clock as well. You can pull up a stool and join us. Have the final word here in the sports bar. 585-866-4326. 866-4FAN.
update.
Bills are shorthanded on offense. Dalton Kincaid has been ruled out, so it'll mean more of tight end Dawson Knox. We already knew Keon Coleman was not going to be available. And Amari Cooper and Spencer Brown are officially questionable. Sean McDermott on if there is no Brown at right tackle.
I think Chrome's done a really good job. Chrome and Austin both. Vandy's been a part of our system for more than a year or two here, and he just works extremely hard every day, every week. Very consistent player. Went in last week, as you saw, and did a great job for us. So we have full confidence in Vandy.
Bills and Chiefs. Our pregame coverage will begin at noon on Sunday. The game can be heard on 96.5 WCMF. That's because we have Amerks hockey there in Toronto on Sunday. Amerks home tomorrow against Laval. RIT home tonight and tomorrow against Army. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester.
Epic victories, heartbreaking defeats. No matter your team, no matter your game, we talk sports. The Fan, Rochester.
You know, we can be critical of the Buffalo Sabres, Gino, and the season, if it were to end right now, they would be just 1 point out of the last playoff spot in the East.
We've gotten to a point where they do things, they win games, and we're still like, okay, come on. I've fallen for this before, but
right.
They did something last night that was really smart. So Blues forward Oskar Sundqvist took a goaltender interference penalty. Happens with 30 seconds left in a tie game in regulation. It's a delayed call, and Blues have to touch it. The Sabres hold on to the puck, which means they carry that power play over for the full 2 minutes into overtime. And once you know it, that extra time paid off. Rasmus Dahlin scoring the power play, 131 into overtime on that 4-on-3. Buffalo wins for the fourth time in 5 games, 4-3 over the Blues. Now, for Buffalo, they're going to be shorthanded tomorrow night. Once again, Tage Thompson not available. They're hopeful that he'll come back at some point next week. UPL apparently not ready either. 7 o'clock, the puck drop tomorrow on 96.5 WCMF.
What I love about last night's win is it's just this equals that. Like, smart play equals a win. Guys, if you do this, if you're playing heady the way they played at the end of the game there, and I actually was like almost like a full minute that they had to hold on to the puck for there in that final minute with the delayed call to ensure that they would get the full 2-minute power play in the extra frame. And I'll give him credit when it's worthy. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin Monday against the Canadians takes a boneheaded elbowing penalty. The Canadians score on that power play, and they don't look back. That's the captain of the team. And last night, he came through like the captain of the team. That was a big goal and a nice win for the Sabres.
College football tomorrow. Here's the question everybody's kind of debating if we look ahead here. Can Georgia afford a third loss? They're 7-2. They'll be without starting running back Trevor Etienne tomorrow as he's not available. Tennessee, the opponent. The Vols are actually pretty good. They're 8-1. They're ranked 7th in that college football playoff ranker. That's your primetime game tomorrow on ABC. Your college football Saturday starts off with Utah and Colorado. Coach Prime at noon. There's a better time slot there, Coach. Although that's 10 a.m. Mountain Time. It's on Fox tomorrow. Syracuse, a 9.5-point underdog heading to Cal. 9.5. They're an underdog.
I don't have a drop of him saying 9.5.
Oh, okay.
9 times.
3:30 on the CW network. Number 1, Oregon playing at Wisconsin, 7:30 on NBC. Number 6, BYU. This is strange. They're only favored by 2.5 at home, hosting Kansas. 10:15 tomorrow night on ESPN.
To answer your question, Georgia can't lose, right? Lose a third game, they're out.
Heather Dinich is still saying they are worthy of a spot. And I think that sounds very takey to me. Like they're not a top 12 team, even in the SEC. If you lose a third straight, even if you lose at good teams like Ole Miss and Tennessee.
Yeah, it's interesting because now at this stage of the season, this first season with the expanded playoff, it feels like these games have become either play-in or elimination games, which is making it kind of interesting and fun.
Did not kind of expect that. I was looking ahead to, great, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, Michigan, Ohio State's not going to mean anything. And there's a downside to this, too. Like Penn State wins out, they're still in, but they still can't really beat anybody good.
I think, Penn State being like the 4th-ranked team in the country right now still makes me kind of chuckle. It's like your best win was you barely getting by on Southern Cal. I mean, you're going to throttle Purdue this weekend, and you're going to get rewarded for that. Penn State in the playoff is going to be interesting. I just hope that Nittany Lion fans keep their expectations in check. Can I know that that's a tall order and a lot to ask, but can we keep it in check? Because just because you're in the dance doesn't mean you're going to perform well. I really worry about what they're going to be like against some of these other teams that are just fighting tooth and nail to get into the tournament.
Syracuse basketball, by the way, they're home tomorrow taking on that power, Youngstown State.
Wake me up when the season starts.
Well, the Orange had a real thriller against Colgate on Tuesday.
Wake me up when the season starts.
They were losing at halftime to Lemoyne.
I know. And it's like, okay, when the preseason is over in college basketball, let me know.
Well, it's over.
I know it is, but I'm calling it the preseason because these games, it's ridiculous.
The ride continuing for the A seed, Rush Henrietta. They're in the final, facing Aquinas in Class AA. That takes place tonight at SUNY Broadport, Eunice Kennedy Shriver Stadium. Finals tomorrow. The sectionals include Batavia and Eastridge in Class B at noon, 3 o'clock. Jeff Welsh and Canandaigua taking on Steve Leon and Brighton. Class A, the final. The Sports Bar wishes all the players, coaches, and families good luck this week.
It's so funny how in AA, this is the final. I mean, like when you think about how the regular season played out, the 8th seed is playing Aquinas for the sectional championship.
And even Aquinas lost to Penfield, and we're like, okay, this really isn't. Penfield beat both of these teams.
You're right.
And in McQuaid, 5 times in a row, they won this, so there will be a new champion. You always had UPrep knocking on the door, and
UPrep always feels like the giant killer. Like UPrep will rise up and beat somebody that you don't expect them to beat. But that's been Rush Henrietta this postseason. I mean, for them to knock off the 1 seed in Fairport and to continue to advance, I mean, they're a fun young team here in Section 5. Aquinas, you didn't get the chance to see them this year. I did. Final week of the regular season at Hilton. And it really felt to me like Aquinas was playing their best football at the right time. They might be tough to stop. Going to be real compelling. And as far as the Class A, when you're talking about Canandaigua and Brighton, I mean, what a great matchup there. Good luck. I mean, good luck to all the families. Good luck to all the schools. It's a real exciting time for Section 5 football.
Yeah, it's funny how, like, if Canandaigua gets by Brighton, they were talking about they started the season. We did that game out in Syracuse. Would they end the season in Syracuse? Right. That's where they have their state final.
In the Dome.
Remember Yasiel Puig? How could you not? Yasiel Puig, exciting guy, but he hasn't played in the majors since 2019. That year, he had 24 home runs. Well, he's not welcome back in. He went overseas. He's going to play once again this season, Danger, in South Korea. Not sure if the now 33-year-old will ever make it back to the majors. He still faces legal issues here that include multiple sexual assault accusations, as well as a report in 2022 that, well, he bet with an illegal bookie.
So I mean, like in sports and in life, I guess there's just the only standard that exists is a double standard. Like the idea that this guy could potentially come back. But we were talking earlier about Gruden because of an email. We'll never get a second chance.
No,
I'm not excusing what Gruden did.
Yeah, I don't think Puig is going to come back, though.
Okay.
He wants to, but it's like, no.
I mean, do we really need to let a guy with multiple sexual assault accusations back into the league? Is that going to be good for the game?
Well, judging by another former Dodger.
Bauer.
Bauer, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Bauer, and then hired an agent, and they're screaming for a second chance or whatever. Like, yeah, it's not good for business. Bye-bye. That's like your talent is not you're not really that big. So I don't honestly I got to bring up Bauer. I don't even know where did he play last year. I don't even know.
I have no idea where that guy ended up. Somewhere in Japan, right? Was in Japan.
He was in Japan, and he was trying. He was.
But he was still a weirdo and a hothead, and he was mouthing off and I remember seeing some footage of him overseas, and just like, whoa, he's unhinged.
Yeah, I
no
don't
idea.
know. Oh, he was named the pitcher of the year in the Mexican Baseball League.
Okay. All right. He's still at it.
Yeah, 10-0 with a 2.48 ERA for Diablos Rojos. That means the Red Devils. That's good by me. Aren't you
very
impressed?
good, very impressive, Gino.
Give me a dig there. The Diablo Rojos.
That's good. Well done.
Yankees have their new play-by-play voice. He's Dave Sims. Sims, a veteran broadcaster, was with WFAN and then a sports anchor for WCBS TV in the late 80s, early 90s. Most recently, he'd been calling the Seattle Mariners game on TV for the past 17 years. So, Danger, I guess that is really the end for John Sterling.
Ow! 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 It really hit me. I didn't know it was coming back that far.
All I want to know is if Dave Sims can take a foul ball the way Sterling did. I'm sure his resume is fantastic. I'm sure he calls a hell of a game. Can you take a foul ball live?
It's never too late. Dave Sims is 73.
I guess if I'm disappointed in and I'm not disappointed. Like I said, I don't really have any skin in the game here, and I'm sure he calls a great game. But you also had an opportunity here to give the next John Sterling their chance, and it feels like you just kind of replaced John Sterling with slightly younger John Sterling.
Well, if Susan Waldman's coming back, like having the up and coming, Ryan Rucco or whoever it might be coming in and call games, they tried a bunch of different guys up at that chemistry. Waldman's 78. So maybe these two will do this for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for how many more years? And you're going to have to kind of, at some point, and I'm not trying to be ageist here, at some point, you're going to have to get younger in the booth at some point. Just throwing it out there. I know that it's a traditional program, and they're a proud franchise, and they are considered the class of Major League Baseball, but at some point, maybe get a little younger. Oh, no, not baseball writer.
You're talking about radio and baseball are made for one another here.
I figured it would get you excited. I didn't know you would come into the studio with your pants around your ankles, old baseball writer. Clean it up a little bit here. This is a family program.
Why do I even listen to your show if you're going to denigrate
I really
me?
don't know.
Why are you going to denigrate me?
I don't know. We're not really for you, I guess.
No, some of the great voices, Vin Scully, Red Barber. Have you ever listened to a baseball game, Mike Danger?
I have, and I'll tell you why, baseball writer, because the one constant through all the years, baseball writer, has been baseball. America's rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time.
I can't tell if you're being serious, because how would you know that? How could you know that, recite that? That's the greatest speech, not in baseball history, in cinema. James Earl Jones. People think he's like the guy in the Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
No,
Darth Vader.
No. He was the character in that fine baseball movie,
Hey, look,
Field of Dreams.
Baseball writer, I love having you on the show, because if you do anything for us all here in the Sports Bar, you remind us all of all that was once good and could be again. I mean, you bring us there.
Why is there no hot stove talk in this show?
Thank you, baseball writer. Thank you, baseball writer. Thank you, baseball writer. Well, we did talk a little Juan Soto earlier, and Gene doesn't want Juan Soto at the Mets for $700,000. Or $700 million.
I'd take it for $700,000.
$700 million. $700 million.
Just follow me. Like, at that price, you need something more. I'm sorry. Like generational talent. Like, he's not in the top 3 in this league.
I would want him whatever the price on my. If you're telling me the Cubs are going to spend $750 for Juan Soto, I'm excited about that. Yes, sign me up. I would take him. But maybe the Mets aren't as desperate as the Cubs. The Cubs, haven't made the postseason in a while. They don't have Grimace throwing out the first pitch to help them along.
Oh, we're going to make fun of the Mets here about Grimace and everything. We're the fun fan base.
You are.
If anything, like Bills fans should recognize, fun knows fun.
Fun recognizes fun.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit more about the Bills and the Chiefs. Obviously, come Monday, we'll let you know who's stopping by to recap Sunday's action here in the Sports Bar. And last call is next, 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Hey, every Friday night, FanDuel is giving all customers a bigger payout on select NBA first bets. I'm Mike Danger for FanDuel Sportsbook, the official partner of 95.7 The Fan. First bets let you get in on the action from the opening tip. You can bet on things like who will score the first basket, which team will be the first to 15 points, and so much more. And best of all, you don't have to wait the whole game to see if you've won. Just look for Friday first in the FanDuel app to find your profit boost. Visit FanDuel.com/Mike, M-I-K-E, to claim your Friday first profit boost. FanDuel.com/Mike. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Max wager amount applies. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration. See terms for both offers at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Bills, Sabres, Amerks, all on your favorite sports station. 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Odyssey has sports for every fan. Keep up with your favorite teams from across the country and get the inside scoop from experts. AUDACY. Odyssey.
RIT Hockey is back on home ice. Catch the men against Army this Friday and Saturday night at 7:05. RIT Women's Hockey is home against Syracuse this Saturday afternoon at 3. For more info, head to RITtickets.com. And go Tigers!
Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's last call on the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326. Matt in Rochester, you've got the final word on The Fan. How are you, bud?
All right, guys. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Thanks,
let's get it.
Yeah. Big one this weekend, of course. You guys have talked plenty about it. I think all Bills fans have to be optimistic with the fact that Chiefs are 9-0 but have 7 one-score games. They scored 30 points, one time, I think, right? The Bills have scored 30-plus in the last 4 games and 8 games total this year. So plenty of reason to be optimistic there. But I think the biggest thing Bills fans have to look forward to on Sunday is the fact that we do not have to listen to Chris Collinsworth call this football game.
Well, I guess Tony Romo's okay. It's certainly better than Collinsworth.
Right. Romo, I think, probably likes Allen more than he'll probably
Right.
prop up Allen more than he'll prop up Mahomes.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's a good point, Matt. Like, whenever Collinsworth says Mahomes, it's not Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes.
Oh,
The dude has just a drool fest in the booth, and it gets old after a while.
He's wearing a bib over his suit just to catch the spittle that comes out of his. He just
and
can't.
And it's not even just Bills Chiefs games. It's any Chiefs game you turn on. You just even as a Bills fan, it drives you nuts. But as a football fan, I think it drives you nuts.
Yeah, Matt, I think this is part of you've identified one of the many reasons why Chiefs fatigue is a real thing in the NFL. It's like this guy can do no wrong, and you've got guys like Collinsworth just gushing over him at every single opportunity. You're right, Matt. That is one reason to look forward to the broadcast this weekend. We won't have Collinsworth just propping up Mahomes like he's a deity. It's
got to celebrate the little things, fellas.
That's it. All right, man. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for the call, Matt. Appreciate it. Call anytime.
That is always fun on a game that doesn't involve the Chiefs. Does Collinsworth actually bring up Mahomes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like every other game. Like
You get the dinger ready, or just it becomes a drinking game.
Yeah.
Just every time he mentions Mahomes, go ahead and take a shot. Exciting stuff this weekend. Can't wait for it all to get underway. And, of course, when we come back on Monday, what does the world look like? How do we unpack it all? We do it with the Hall of Famer, Mike Catalana, 13WAM Sports at BuffaloPlus.com. He's going to stop by the sports bar Monday afternoon at 3:25. And, well, Jay Binkley from our Odyssey Sports sister station, 96.5 The Fan in Kansas City, has already committed to joining us, win or lose, but you kind of know how that conversation is going to go here in advance. He's going to be high on his team.
It's guys, fellas, it doesn't matter. Like, yeah, okay, yeah.
That's right. That's Monday afternoon here on The Fan Rochester. If you missed Andy Barron's from Gino, get out of here. You got a RIT hockey game to call.
Yeah.
Every second counts.
Got to beat the train in Scottsville Road.
Every second counts. Gino's off to call some RIT hockey. I'll close up shop here and let you know that if you missed Alex Brasky from the Batavia Daily News and Bills